Okay, thank you. I'd like to call this session of the Board of Revision to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 41st Nation in Treaty 3 territory. With me today are Mr. Jerry Arnell and Mr. Bill Moretsky. My name is Harvey Diamond. I'll be chairing this hearing. Our administrator is Crystal Harland, and the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department will be represented by two assessors, Mr. Brown and Ms. Scheibel. To the Zoom participants of this hearing, please note that you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it's your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Finally, follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you to the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. And once your hearing is conducted, you can leave the meeting. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rules in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision are requested to be described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to those matters must be sworn in. Be advised, the comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered as evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues written orders that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or to classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to an application for exemption from taxation. And should you wish to appeal, information on do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following their swearing in. We will then have the assessment testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by any questions. Each side will give an opportunity to summarize if they wish to do so. And once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliver it in private and make its decisions. You receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will form part of a public record. And we'll be hearing item 1 followed by items 3 through 5 on our docket today. And Mrs. Harlan, you can please affirm, I guess, Mr. Brown and I hearing the first matter and the first applicant today, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Jason Brown.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, would you please stand? Would you please state your full name?
Marcelo Navarro.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Okay, so we're first proceeding with item number 1.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I believe the applicant for item number 1 was MNP.
I thought so too.
Yes, Mr. Chair, pardon me. They haven't shown up.
Okay, so then we'll have to stand that matter down, Mr. Brown, and we'll have to hear Ms. Scheibel's matters, I get, and we can come back to it when and if the applicant shows up, which I expect he will.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So we can swear Ms. Scheibel then, please, and we'll then proceed after with item number 3.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Madam Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Svetlana Scheibel.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, so then we'll proceed then with the property that is at 194 Broadway. Ms. Scheibel, you can start with your evidence as soon as you're ready.
Thank you. File number 24-2342. Roll number 12092808000. Its address is 194 Broadway, Ovner, Manitoba Club. We did assess 2025 roll with reference date April 1st, 2023 at $4,714,000. The subject property is a banquet meeting hall. Original built in 1904 with effective and with addition in 2008. Effective years built 1988. Land area of subject property 20,163 square feet. Plan area 13,489 square feet. Gross floor area 56,284 square feet. Our leasable area 42,696 square feet. On page number 2, I have a photo of subject property. It's located in downtown on facing Main Street, facing Broadway, on corner Broadway and Main Street. The subject property is triangle shape of 1. More photo of page number 4. Airport on page number 5. On page number 6, more air photo and also zoning. Zoning multiple use sector intent to encourage the range of uses, sites, activities, and buildings typical to diverse and vibrant central business district. The built form is also diverse, ranging from high-rise tower at Portrait and May to more intimately scaled building across Grand Avenue. Urban design review intent to enhance pedestrian comfort, encourage high-quality building form. We did assess subject property at market approach. On page number 7 and bottom, I have presented 10 comparables showing average for my comparable $13.55. We did assess subject property at $11.94. My comparables located on 114 Gary, 268 Fort, 180 Main, 155 4th Street, 183 Kennedy Street, 62 Hargrave, 471 Portrait Avenue, 140 Bannatyne, and 65 Rory Street. Oldest building, if subject property was original built 1904, my old comparables built on Ford, comparable number 2, 268 Ford, rented $11.36. Also old building on 155 4th Street, comparable number 4, it's rented $14 per square foot. Comparables 140 Bannatyne, comparable 9 in 10. It's built in 1928, rent for $12 or $13 per square foot. So model generated $11.94 for leasable area 42,696 square feet, give us potential rent 509,790. For subject property, we apply 11% vacancy loss. Expenses not recoverable 3% in shortfall, $8 per square foot for vacant space across all similar type of building. Give us net operating income for 402,530. For subject property, model generates 6.85 capitalization rate. If you look on page number 9, I have presented capitalization rate summary table. The subject property will be City of Winnipeg, April 1st, 2023, downtown. we can see office downtown rent, capitalization rate of 60% of building, 20 percentile, 80 percentile between 5.9 to 7. For subject property, we did apply 6.85%. Give us estimate value of 5,879,76,000. On page number 11, I have presented a subject property cost approach. The replacement cost of building, like cost new, 10.6 million. Depreciation cost around 8.6 million. Give us total cost of the depreciated cost of the building around 2 million. Land value of subject property 2.7 million. Give us total value of 4,779,000. On page 11, we can see cost summary about building section. We have 2 buildings because its original was built in 1904 and has addition 2008. All this replacement cost new by Marshall Swift. We use a program in-house by using Marshall Swift cost. On page number 12, I presented permit for the subject property. You can see size 2099 when permit was issued by 2024 for additional construction interior alteration for subject property was applied, recorded for us construction in structural cost 8.4 million. So it's a lot of renovation was done with the subject building. That's why our effective years built moved to 1988. On page 13, I have presented 4 comparables to support land value of 2,766,000 at rate of $137.80. You can see land value summary table. So we apply for 20,163 square feet, rate of $137.18. My 4 comparables showed mean of $149.34 in media of $134.35. My comparables, my first comparables, 330 Donald Street, land area over 18,000 square feet, was sold in 2021 for 2.4 million. Give us sale price per square foot $132.06. My second comparables on page on 124 Bannatyne Avenue, around 30,000 square feet, was sold in 2019 with for 3,640,000 with our sale price per square foot $120.89. My third comparable 310 Donald Street, land area around 12,000 square feet, sale in 2013 for 2.5 million at $207.73. My 4 comparables on Pioneer Avenue, around 28,000 square feet, was sold in 2018 for $136.64. You can see the subject property of 194 Broadway has zoning M multi-use. My 3 comparables 1, 3, and 4 multi-use, and they rent from sale from $132 for $207. And my second comparables, it's downtown living section, was sale for $120.89. And you can look on photo of my comparables. Land comparables, it's on page 33. It's airport of comparables. It's on 33 through 35. So on page number 14, last land in summary, building summary, last table showed that we assess land in 2,766,000. Building after depreciation was 2,013,000. Give us total assessment or 4,779,000 by post approach. On page 12, I have presented information presented to us from the owner, independent auditor report from Scaran and Donald. It's from page 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and finish on page 20. No. Let's keep going. We have all information was presented for us by owner. It's here and finish on 26. So the two approaches to the value used in this report indicate the following value for the subject property. Cost approach, 4,779,000. Income approach, 5,876,000. The cost approach was approach used by City of Winnipeg Assessment Taxation Department to value the subject property for the 2025 general assessment. The income approach provides a frame of reference, in this case indicate the cost approach value is reasonable. Therefore, the final estimate of value of subject property, it's mistake here, 4,740,000. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Navarro, any questions of the assessment department?
I do. I have several questions.
Please,
First question, Ms. Scheibel, is this an office building?
It's a meeting hall, parcel used, but we assess like office building. Rents, we using office building rent, but this is a meeting hall, that's why it's assessment more for cost approach.
Okay. And on this topic of the way that you valued it on the income approach, can it be used as office space without demising spaces into proper office areas?
We just showed, we apply from leasable area around 43,000 square feet.
Okay.
Because
And the cap rate that
use two approaches for the
Okay.
appeal for assessment purpose.
Okay, and in your income valuation where you're using office comparables, you've used a cap rate in the 6 range, I believe 6.85.
Correct.
Does this take into account the historic nature of the property and the fact that it is a registered heritage property?
Yes,
It does.
but it's also taken account that it's over 8.4 million investment renovation cost declared.
And one more question on the topic of its historic standing. Can you make alterations to this building without approvals?
Yes, you have to have approvals, but if you look on page number 12, I posted all recent permits, what was all historical information, what renovation was done with the subject property.
Okay, and lastly, I noticed that you have your cost approach, and that is what the city has gone with in the last few years. Where is your cost approach workup? All I see there is a summary.
Yes, it's a cost approach summary for Board of Revision purpose. We have cost approach summary. And I say that this cost approach, it's in-house assessment taxation department has in-house program based of Marshall Swift cost.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnell, do you have any questions?
Just clarification on one thing. So you're saying that there was $8 million worth of renovations. That's what all these permit types are indicating? These
Correct.
different permits?
Yes.
Okay, that's really all I had. Thank you.
Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
Yes, just a clarification on the numbers. So the total value that you're assessing it at is $4,779,000.
No, if you look on assessment information, 4,740,000.
Okay, so where did that
To
number come from?
It's our number, how we assess, but I did two approaches.
Yes, but one yielded 4,779,000
Mm-hmm.
and one yielded 5,876,000. That was the income. So
Yes,
why do you have 4,714,000 there as the assessed value?
because it was original assessed value, we sent notice to the owners. That's why I asked to confirm this number, at least.
So the original assent to the owner was 4,714,000,
Correct.
but it should have been 4,779,000. Is that what you're saying?
It's what, okay, I did clean up of this property. It's my top duty. If I came across something, I have to clean records. It gives me 4.7 million, but we sent 4.7 million already. So I asked to confirm this number.
I'm sorry, I still don't understand you.
Okay.
But why is it 4,714,000? Just answer that question, please.
Original, when we sent this appeal, when we sealed this notice of appeal, assessment and I guess in winter, I don't know when we sent this appeal. Okay, if you look on page number 36, thank you for the question. On page 36, in June 5th, 2024, we sent 2025 property assessment notice for 4,740,000. What number I ask you to confirm? When I work for this preparation for this hearing, I did record clean up, so I find some. It's,
So
So
my
I
original
think-
question was then it should have been 4,779,000 after you cleaned it up. But
yes, but we did
your original what you said. Okay.
correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Okay. So, Ms. Scheibel, this building does have a historical designation, correct?
Correct.
That means they could not tear the building down without going through a lot of.
No, you're not allowed, and I'm glad
you're not
we have
exactly.
this historical
So you-
designation.
To get the land value, then they'd have $2,137,000. They really have to be able to demolish the building, wouldn't they?
No, but when you're doing cost approach, you have to have two parts. Land is vacant plus depreciated cost of building. A cost of approach. I have to do two searches.
No, I understand what that, but what I'm saying is to get that land value, though, because the building's on it and they can't really do anything about that. They got that building there. So, and they can't use the land for anything else because of the fact that the building's there and it's got a historical designation. So they really could not get the value of the land that you valued at $2,776,000 because the building's on it and it's stuck with that.
Correct. Correct.
So does that
But-
not diminish the value of the land insofar as this land's concerned? You really can't compare it to other land that you can redevelop, can you?
But we still have to find a similar land value.
No, I
It's
understand
part
that.
of approach, but
I understand
most
that, but to get that
important,
land value, though, they'd have to be able to demolish the building, which they can't do.
that's why on page 12, I posted all costs involved to keep this building in good shape.
Yeah, no, I understand, and it is a good build. It's a nice building, and it's in good shape. But that's not our what we're doing here today. We're trying to determine what a fair assessment would be under all the circumstances. So you valued it on the income approach, but as Mr. Navarro said, to get that income approach, you'd have to make extensive renovations to that building.
It's already done. That's
It's
why
already done.
it's
You can operate offices like in that building the way it is right now?
Yes, it's already involved 8.4 million until by reference date April by 24. So by physical condition on January 1st, 2025, 8.4 million renovation put in this building, and we assess 4.7 million. It's fair.
Okay, I have no further questions. Mr. Navarro, you can proceed with your evidence.
Mr. Chair, I also have some rebuttal on the assessor's land comparisons. I don't know if you want that now or after I present.
Present, and you can do your rebuttal after.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're looking at 194 Broadway. This is the Manitoba Club. This is a historic building. You can see the pictures on page 2 and 3 that are taken from Google Maps. Some more pictures between 4, 5. You can see some other pictures of land surrounding it. So this is a particularly interesting location because not only is the subject noted as a historic site under the city of Winnipeg, but the property next door is a provincial park, which is also historic. I believe that is the location of the former Upper Fort Garry. So there are a lot of issues with developing in this area, and from our perspective, in terms of highest and best use, its current use is its highest and best use, simply because it would be restricted from becoming anything else with that designation. So we valued it as an event center, and I'll go through that valuation later in my brief. So on page 4, you can see the intended use of the report, and it is strictly for the purposes of property assessment, and the intended user, which is ourselves and the Board of Revision. In terms of the scope of the work, we went through a lot of things, including a detailed history of the property, a look at permits, a look at the functional history of the property, and also an interior inspection that was conducted by one of my colleagues in late 2023. On page 10, you can see the general location of the property, and right next door to it, you can see the surrounding provincial park there that is the former Upper Fort Garry. On page 11, you can see a Google Earth bird's eye view and a description of the property. I will skip that. In terms of highest and best use, again, as I stated just a few moments ago, this property is, you can't really tear it down. Conceivably, you could develop it into something else, but I will state that it's not demised as an office building. It's an event center. We'll show the pictures to show that it is an event center. And for it to become an office building, actual partitions would need to be included in the buildings and the different floors for it to become an actual functional office building. So we didn't see that as an option for us. We valued it on cost, and that is the way that we continue to value it. In terms of additional information, there is the standard information that we include on interest rates, inflation, and capitalization rates, which speak to the nature of the economy starting in late 2022 when interest rates began to rise as a result of inflation and the Bank of Canada using interest rates to control that. We also note that we included some additional information about the office market in general. So the office market in general in Winnipeg has been hit very hard. And one of the reasons that we didn't include that valuation parameter or methodology within our report is simply that there's not really any demand for office right now. It's declining, and most of our Altus reports that have been submitted to date are speaking to that. So I will leave it at that. There are three approaches to value: the direct comparison approach, the income approach, and the cost approach. The cost approach is the one that we will highlight. So I will start with the land value. I only used 4 sales. 3 of them are parking derived. So there is this notion that parking properties are generally in transition. However, that transition can last for decades in some cases. So often parking is the highest and best use for a property, unless it is extremely well located to the point that we see some noise in the marketplace that it could, a site could possibly be developed. Otherwise, we treat parking lots as parking income. And most of the sales that we've looked at for parking lots have sold based on their income potential as parking lots, not as development sites. So here we have 4 properties that we looked up. 3 of them are parking lots. We know that they were purchased as parking lots and for their parking income. Now, we rationalize the price per square foot, which typically we don't, because what we try and extrapolate from a parking lot sale is the cap rate. We don't look at the price per square foot really. However, for comparison purposes, we did look at the price per square foot in this case. So we have one comparable first on Pioneer Avenue. This is a 27,811 square foot parcel. Based on its parking income, it worked out to $136.64. Now, in contrast, ours is 20,000 square feet, so it is slightly smaller. The next one, number 2, is 124 Bannatyne, also a parking lot. It's sold for its potential as a parking lot. But for the purposes of this valuation, we're using the square foot that was derived from that income purchase. And that is $120.8, essentially $121 per square foot. And that sold in October of 2019. Now, there haven't been very many sales of any type of parking lot or lots in general following the downward decline of the economy and inflation going up, interest rates going up, all of that. So there isn't much to derive. However, we did manage to find 2 sales that occurred in 2022, which is relatively close to the reference date of April 1, 2023. So the first one is on Donald Street. It is a surface parking lot, 18,050 square feet. This property is located just south of Broadway, and Again, that one works out to $83.10 per square foot. The next one is not a surface parking lot, it's an actual development lot. It is empty and ready for development. It used to be a parking lot at one time, gravel only parking lot with no real services. However, a few years ago, the city declined any further continuation of the variance that it had to allow for parking. So at some point, I believe it may have been around 2016, the city removed the ability of this site to be used as a parking lot, and it became essentially a development lot. So from the four comparables that we see here, not only is this one the closest to the subject in terms of sale date, but also the fact that it is simply an empty lot ready for development. It probably is the best comparison. It is bigger, about 15,000 square feet bigger. However, in terms of the average of all of those four sales is 105.99. You'll see my comments there on Index 1. Property is at Pioneer Avenue, purchased by Artis REIT as part of their acquisition of downtown parking lots for their new development at 300 Main Street. So I've commented this about this in previous hearings regarding parking. Artis REIT did go through a period as they were building 300 Main Street, and that's the new tower, where they were going out and simply purchasing parking lots, usually at high value, but crucial to their operation of the tower itself. So in terms of this parking lot, we don't see any type of potential for development in the next 5 years. It's been a parking lot for decades now, so we don't think that it would become anything else. And parking seems to be its highest and best use. Index 2 is 124 Bantime. This is one of, I would call the crown jewels of parking in the East Exchange District. It's a large lot with a lot of stalls. It has a high potential, and in terms of how we valued it, we derived a very good cap rate out of it. But for the purposes of this exercise, we're only looking at the price per square foot relative to its size. So it is 30,110 square feet, and we derived a price per square foot of $120.89 per square foot. The next comparable is Donald Street. This was again purchased for parking purposes. We derived a cap rate out of this. We don't see any potential for development in this location. And in terms of its price per square foot relative to its size, that is $83.10 per square foot. And the last one is the Hargrave location that I mentioned. This is a 35,997 square foot lot. Its price per square foot is $83.34. So in terms of the value that we used the value of $106 per square foot, and we applied that to the 20,163 square feet, and came to a value of $2,137,000. So that is the land value. Now, in terms of the building value, we have a building value, and this is just summarizing the building value. I will get into the more complicated aspects of the building valuation in a few minutes. So this just summarizes the building value at $1,262,000. The total assessment that we are seeking is $3,399,000. In terms of the definitions, we've defined this location as a country club. Now, why a country club? Because it fit what we would see this as in terms of its cost to value. Now, you'll see in my valuation how I get into this, so I will start with that. So I'm going to start on page 24. We have the City of Winnipeg's building details, and then I'll get into a series of inspection photos that you'll see. And these were taken in September of 2023. So the first page is the picture isn't that great, but it's from the top floor of the roof. Or the top floor. The second pictures are of the outside and work that's being done to the outside layers. The brick layers are being repaired. So one thing that I'll speak about with this type of property is that I'll remind you that this property is over 100 years old, and the constant wear of the weather, all of those elements of the weather like wind, snow, rain, causes building to deteriorate at a much faster rate than a newer building would. So the repair and maintenance on the type of property like this is much more extensive than it would be on a newer property. Added to that, there is the fact that there aren't many trades that actually specialize in this type of work in the city. There are only a few companies, so you are unfortunately forced to work with one of these companies, and there isn't that robust market that you would see in newer property development, where there are many different companies that work in the construction industry developing newer properties. And this is a very specialized area, and it's more costly. So on page 27, you can see some more interior areas. These are the top areas, and you can see that this is a balcony on the outside. And again, these are office areas in the upper side of the building, so the upper floors. And you can see then the on page 29, some of the open spaces for what we would call recreational uses and entertainment uses. Obviously, this property has a lot of issues, and I just mentioned that there is ongoing, constant work that has to be done on a building of this age. So it never stops, and it gets worse as time goes on, simply because of the fact that it's old and it deteriorates a lot faster than a newer building would. Page 31, you can see some of the demising, and these are store areas for the restaurant. Again, you can see some meeting areas on page 32 and some pictures of the outside. Again, these were taken from a balcony. And page 34, you can see some more areas. This is specific office areas for the people that work inside. 35, you can see the roof area and the stairwell. And 36 and 37, you can see some more interior areas. 37 is the basement areas. You can see the concrete foundation there. And obviously the nicer areas would be the banquet areas that have been, extensively renovated, and they have to be because, they have to look a certain way. But again, there are those costs that are involved in the workmanship that's needed. In this type of work, you need artisans as well as, construction workers. So it is a little bit more expensive to work on these properties. On page 39, again, you can see patio view and some of the spaces that are used as lounging areas for members. Here you can see some of the lower areas. Again, some of these areas are simply for access and egress from certain areas of the building. So they are almost tunnel-like. And again, on page 41, more recreational areas. 42 and 43, you can see more recreational areas and part of the kitchen. And again, 44, you see some additional areas that are needing some work. It goes on to 46, 47, 48, 49. So what was noted on the inspection is obviously that there was a lot of work that was needed. And that is ongoing, and will keep going, as I mentioned. So in terms of the occupancy codes that I used the 314 Country Club code. for specific reasons. However, again, I'll get into that when I do the valuation side of this. And you can turn to page 54. This is the beginning of the report on the valuation of the property. So this is 194 Broadway. This is the cost approach. This approach is taken from Marshall Swift, and that's a valuation service and estimator that we use. I believe the city of Winnipeg also uses it, so it's taken directly from the same place that the city uses it. So the occupancy that we used is country club. The type of construction is masonry bearing walls. And in terms of the height of the property per floor, that is 13 feet. The rank is essentially the quality of the building itself, and that would be considered average for today's standards. In terms of the perimeter, you can see that it is 460 and the effective age is 57 years. I will get into the effective age in a few minutes as well. So the effective age would essentially take it to about 1968. Now, in terms of the components that we've added for HVAC, we've added for stud brick veneer, and we've added for wet sprinklers, okay? And that is typical for a building like this. The sprinklers, the HVAC would have been added at a later date, not in the original, not in its original form. And then we have basement, and this is unfinished areas. You can see the total area there, but the basement components also have HVAC and also have wet sprinklers. So those areas have that as well. The next area is the area that was constructed in 2006. Now this area is 16 years old now, and it is 1,032. It's 3 stories going up. And this is the $4 million adjustment that the assessor noted. And this is where I'll start making some commentary on that. That was not repair and maintenance or capital work, okay? That was a new addition that was built. That's being recognized in the valuation that you just see before you, okay? Section 2 is that new section that costs $4 million. So, when we go to the second page, you can see that in the occupancy, you also see the standard 1,032, 3 floors. The perimeter is 120 and the age is 16. Components include HVAC and sprinklers. Now, in terms of the base structure cost, if you were to build this today, we're looking at about $9,337,088. Now that takes into account that there's slightly different standards in terms of spacing and all of that today than there was at that time in history. We've actually adjusted for the current size. So we're actually presenting more of a reproduction cost than a replacement cost. A replacement cost would probably be less simply because of the spacing guidelines for it. So in today's construction standards, you wouldn't necessarily need a building this large to accommodate the number of people that are allowed in this building. So we would have a difference in terms of this overall size of the property, but we've just gone with the standard sizes that we have for the building. But they really do present more of a reproduction cost than a replacement cost. And we've added for depreciation. And all of those components, again, the basic structure cost is $9,337,088. The basement, with the basement, the heating and cooling, and the sprinklers, the entire building cost new, and that's for both sections, is $10,320,571. Now we've added for physical depreciation of $8,110,431. And that is just straight line physical depreciation. So typically the buildings depreciate at about 1% per year. That's just the straight line method. We've added some additional depreciation to this simply because of the type of property that we're dealing with, which I got into in the issue of, this is constantly needing repair and renovations. It's deteriorating at a much faster pace than your typical building would be. And we've also added some external obsolescence to this. And that is simply because of the issue of this building is simply out of date for what it does. It's obsolete, essentially. So if you wanted an event center in today's world, you would build something much different than you would than the current Manitoba Club. So these are aspects of the building that note its obsolescence in terms of its function. In terms of its depreciated cost, when you add all of these factors in, the depreciated cost of the building comes out at $1,192,123. And then we add to that the land value and the adjustments that are depreciated for the foundation. So most types of buildings in Winnipeg have some type of piling system, whether it be concrete pilings or metal pilings, or going back to this age, even wood pilings. This would be depreciated over time, so we have a value of $70,000 on that. So the total cost that we have is $3,399,123, which was rounded down to $3,399,000. The next page, on page 58 or 56, sorry, we see the effective age. So what I looked at was what was the starting age? So we did a weighted average of all of the different sections of the property, and there are several sections. There are 5 sections, dated starting from 1905 to 1910 to 1913 to 1930 and to 2007. Okay. Now, with that, we've tried to establish a weight for the property and the proper starting age of this building. So based on this calculation, we are effectively starting out with a building that is dated to about 1917. Okay, so that's the starting point. Now, I know the building was constructed originally. The original pieces of it were constructed in 1904 and 1905. But when you take into account the other sections of the building and their proportionate sizes, you actually come out with a starting date of about 1917. And then we look at the costs and all of the different renovations that were done over the years. And so we start in 1917, and then we add for all of the different components that were altered at one point or another. So you see there that you go from 1937, there was a cost of, the cost of work was $500. We inflated that into today's dollars and what that would mean. Right down to the bottom where we have repairs in 2024. We're including these in there because typically we don't include anything past the April 1, 2023 reference date, but that is for economic issues. This is a physical issue, so we can actually look at the physical date of the valuation, which is January 1, 2025. So we included the $2.380 million that was done in terms of that work. And then again, all of those factors were basically taken to 2022 costs. Now, in total, we have about $4,872,466 inflated to 2022. The base costs were from that period as well. So the base cost or the replacement cost new is $10,320,000. That represents roughly 47%. So how we figure out the age is then we take the physical date of January 1, 2025, and we go back to 1917. Okay, so that is 108 years in total. Okay, so from a functional perspective, what we're looking at is that we're looking at a 108-year-old building. Okay, at 47%, again, that is the difference between the inflated costs of the renovations that were done over the years versus the replacement cost new. 108 years times 47% gives it an age of about 50.76 years. And then we add 50.76 years to 1917, and that gives us a value of 1968. From 1968, we deduct it from 2025, that's 57 years. That is how we've worked out the physical age of the property. It's a complicated path. It's not just, you know, oh, I think it's 1990 now. There are a lot of calculations involved in it, and it's not a simple process. So I spent the better part of a week working on this and came to a value in terms of the effective age that I think is representative of what's there and supportable. So again, that is the effective age of the property. Now, going on to the next section, starting on page 57, you can see that again, the report committee looked at this property in August of 2018 or 2017. And I believe it was actually approved for its designation in sometime in 2018. So you can go from page, from the original page to about, about page 96. That's all information that came out of the heritage report. Now, in 2017, that's when the city actually started contemplating adding this to the heritage list. So this property hasn't been on the heritage list for decades. It's only been on the heritage list for a few years. And on page 97, you can see some of the character defining elements that are protected. And you can see in the interior, for the most part, for most properties that have heritage designation, it's the exterior is almost automatically protected. Okay, in most cases you can't alter it. In most cases, there is some alterations that are allowed of the interior, though, even for heritage properties. But this one gets into the actual interior aspects of that and what's allowed. So right there on page 97, you can see that the original elements, finishes, and volume of spaces on the ground, main foyer, billiard room, staircases, stained glass windows, and second floor, main hall, oak room, and stained glass light as well. So they're obviously concerned about protecting the interior aspects of the city, and I'm sure most of you have at one time or another seen historic photos of the Manitoba Club. From 100 years ago, when there's a bunch of older men smoking cigars, lounging around drinking whiskey. Those are the elements that they're looking at preserving, and those are the elements that would make it very difficult to convert this into anything but its current use. So I strongly disagree with the opinion that this could be an office building. No, it can't. There's too much of it that's protected that would keep it as an event center. Beyond that, you can see on page 102, and this article is from Bartley Kivas of CBC News, dated February 9th, 2018. And this is basically speaking to the idea that the owners really strongly object to this because when you have that heritage designation on it, it kind of removes some of the fee simple bundle of rights that you have, and it takes them away from you. So while you can sell the property, you're kind of limited by what you can do to it by this heritage designation. So they objected to it, and ultimately they didn't win that, and it came on to the list, and now it is a heritage property. Now, I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Ms. Scheibel, any questions?
Hi, thank you. Let's open page 20 of agent brief. You would agree that subject property zoning M multi-use, correct?
Yeah.
So on your 4 comparables, just comparable number 1 on Pioneer Avenue, it's multi-use. It's a price for $136.64. It's a match zoning for subject property, your best comparables, correct?
What is your question? Can you?
Regard zoning,
Yeah,
your comparable number 1 on Pioneer.
yeah.
Price over $136.64 per square foot. Matched is zoning M multi-use, correct?
Okay, you're saying that the multi-use affects the value of it?
When we look, yes, because you can see you have downtown living. So it's 2 different zoning, 2 different price for land.
Okay, so this is how I would explain it to you. First of all, those rates that work out on a rate per square foot for those properties, their values are, those sale prices are being derived by the income potential of those properties as parking lots, for the most part. That would include all of yours and 3 of mine. So we're working out a price per square foot, but we're omitting that you know, that price per square foot is actually being derived by its income potential as a parking lot, not its potential as a site for development. So the value, in fact, has very little to do with the potential of those sites to be developed. The only one there that's actually a development lot is 360 Hargrave. Now, regarding the zoning would play some part in this. Simply, if you were trying to develop a 10-story or 15-story office building, no doubt the zoning would affect it. But we're not dealing with that case. We're dealing with a heritage property where you couldn't do anything to it, and you have a 3 or 4-story building there. So zoning would play zoning would have little effect on this in terms of its value. Also, in terms of the zoning can vary, and you can get variances for different types of construction. So there's nothing stopping you from building other types of properties in this area. You're certainly not going to build a 15-story building, but I don't think anything would stop you from building a 6 or 7-story building on, for example, 360 Broadway, or even for that matter, a 10-story building. Given that in terms of sightlines, it wouldn't be hindering anything, including the property just to the east of it is, I believe, about 6 or 7 stories. So I don't buy that. I believe that in this particular case, zoning would play very little. And most of these properties, in terms of the values that we're looking at, are being derived by another use altogether, like parking.
Please open page 54 of agent brief, summary report. Everyone with me?
Which page again? Sorry.
54.
54.
54?
Which one?
54, 54.
Okay.
We're looking for summary report. It is true that we going for a cost report, we have to apply whole gross floor area, correct?
Correct.
May I ask question?
Sorry?
In your summary report, when we estimate cost of the building by Marshall Swift, we have to apply gross floor area, full gross floor area, correct?
Yeah.
And in your case, look on basement, you use 13,145 square feet and 344 square feet. It gives us 13,489 square feet, similar with our records in our assessment. But when we're looking on section 1 occupancy,
Ms. Chabot, you have questions right now.
yes, it's questions.
Okay, so ask it as a question, not as evidence, please.
In your case, if we use a gross floor area, how much should be building area for cost approach you're using? You should took out 56,284 square feet minus 30,489 square feet. How much is supposed to be?
Well, it's a 3-story building, is it not?
Correct?
Okay.
3.5.
You see in the plan area that the plan area of the original section is 13,489. So if you multiply 13,489 by 3, you get 40,467. We're at 41,763.
But it's supposed to be 42,795, correct? It's on your page 15.
No, so we've added an additional
55.
section. So if you let me please answer. There is the additional section, which is a 3-story section of 1,032 square feet. That's also added to that. So in total, from our calculations, you get 41,763 plus 1,032. That's 42,795. And if you see that on page, if you look on page 55 at the very bottom, the very bottom line where it says total cost, you see there 42,795.
So your total cost apply only for the building, it's missing basement area, correct?
So in addition to that, there is also the cost added to the basement area, but the basement area isn't included in the total gross area. However, it is still costed out.
Let's open page 56. We can see we were looking for 1999. It's a interior exterior alteration 50,000. It's in my case it's page 12. Permit 133067 from 99. After you going straight to 2010. But you missing, you forget to put addition for 4.22 million addition built in 2007, correct? It's not here.
Yeah, it is. It's section 2. It's a 3-story addition.
No, we're looking on page 56.
Yeah.
Cost of work. You skip from 2000 to 2010. You didn't post it cost addition for 4.22 million, correct? Why so?
Yeah, so the addition is included in section 2. That is the addition that was built in 2006.
I'm looking on your effective age estimation on page 56, your table. You posted all cost of, you put all structure cost by years, what was put on in this building, renovation of this building. You missing from 1999, you jump straight to 2010. So in your table, you missing 2007 addition of 4.22 million, correct?
No, I think you're not understanding what I'm explaining here. So I'm gonna take you back to page 54
We're
and
going to page 56.
yeah,
Let Mr. Rivero answer, Ms. Shivo. He's taking us back to
Okay,
54 to
sorry.
explain the
Okay.
question to you.
So section 1 in the valuation covers the original part of the building, okay? What you're looking at on page 56 is detailing the depreciation and all of the work that's been done on the original section of the building, okay? We don't need to account for it for the $4 million in there because we're not talking about the original section. The $4 million pertains to the new addition, which we've added as an addition in section 2. Now, that section doesn't need to be depreciated very much because it's only about 16 years old. So what you're looking at on page 6 only refers to section 1 of the summary, the valuation of the original parts of the building. Okay, section 1, which was built in 1905, section 2, which was built in 1910, section 3 that was built in 1913, and section 4 that was built in 1930. Okay, that's what this chart is detailing, is the depreciation and the work that was done on this property in order to try and establish an effective age for the property or the original section of the building, not for the new section. The new section is 2006. It's 16 years old. There's no need to look at any other types of added depreciation or anything like that for that section.
And what represent 10.32 million in your table on page 56, red? See?
That is the full replacement cost new of the entirety of the property.
Okay, it's very close to our post report. Also, when you estimate that building 108 years old, you took 2025 minus 1917. Why not original years built 1905?
Okay, so at the very top, you see a weighted average based on all the sections of the building. So what we're trying to establish is a baseline for the property based on those sections. So if you take all 5 sections of the building, add them together, effectively what you come out to is a weighted date of 1917. So it just moves the hurdle a little bit further. So it makes it newer. Only one section of the building was built in 1905. The rest of the sections came later.
But it's a biggest part of building, half of the building.
Just to explain, if I were to change it to 1904, the original date, as opposed to 1917, we'd be looking at a lower overall value. So I think 1917 is a good starting point.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Brzeski, any questions?
Yes, sir. I'll have to go over to your line comparisons. If you could tell me what page that was on, that would help. You know what page it was on? Line comparisons?
Oh, the line comparisons, yes.
I thought maybe I'll find it here.
On page 20.
At the same time you got there. Okay. Index 1, index 2. Were those used in the assessor's presentation as well?
No.
Pioneer Avenue.
Yeah, 124 Bannatyne and Pioneer were both used.
Now, the other ones are Donald Street and 360 Hargrave.
Yeah,
Those are also, okay, one is a surface parking, one is a development lot.
yeah.
Just wanted to get your opinion or your feedback onto why the sale price of those seems to be considerably lower than the other two above 1 and 2.
Well, I do have rebuttal on one of the assessors comparables, so I think that will probably answer some of the questions. But in terms of why the values are so high, well, this is what I'm trying to relate.
No, I'm saying the 3 and 4 seem to be considerably lower per square
Yeah,
foot.
yeah, absolutely. Show their newer sales. So they're reflecting what's happening in the marketplace.
So you're implying that the prices went down in 22 by 20% or so, or that much?
I would say that for every portfolio asset class across the downtown, that's pretty much the case. Maybe with the exception of apartment buildings, and I can't speak to that, completely because I certainly haven't done enough apartment valuation this cycle. But for office, definitely, and for parking, definitely. And there has been no real development in the downtown for the last few years. 300 Main Street finished completion, I believe, more recently, but I mean, that building is half empty. So there was another development project on the corner of St. Mary and Donald Street, which I mean, I think it went bankrupt. So they had to sell it off at I'm assuming at a much lower price in order to get that development the development wheels spinning again on that property. So I think for the most part, most of the development in Winnipeg that's happening right now is actually happening in terms of conversion. So we've already seen the start of conversion of office buildings to apartment buildings, and the reason for that is that it's cheaper. And that's the bottom line, is that construction costs are so high right now that there's not much happening in terms of activity. But for the base, from a basic perspective, yeah, land has been, I mean, it's just, that's a reflection of what's happening.
Your summary report on your exercise on the effective age, you did a pretty extensive study and analysis of that, and I think I understand the general concept, but I could probably never get to the detail of knowledge that you have on it, having worked so closely with it and designed it. But anyways, this is more of a bit of a comment more than a question, I guess. When I look at this building on your pictures, let's say on page 11, and you get to your evaluation of 1,192,000 as a depreciated value. It just jumps out at me as being low. What's your comment on that?
So a lot of that is simply caused by the depreciation of the property. So what we have to keep in mind is that there's a lot of depreciation on this building. It's 108 years old. It's gone through some renovations in terms of its effective age. It's increased the effective age, but really, from our perspective, it's really not a function of myself. I mean, the value is what Marshall Swift spits out. I'm only making slight adjustments to it. I'm adding the features that we see that should be part of this building, the HVAC systems, the sprinklers, all of the envelope that goes into building this property, the type of structure that it is, the masonry construction, all of that is populated by the system. And Marshall Swift goes through a lot of pain to study construction and all of these things in terms of how properties are valued. I'm adding additional obsolescence there and depreciation because again, it is a 108-year-old building. But really, unfortunately, that's when you get to this stage, you're not going to get much value out of a building like this. So that's what it is.
Just one more question on that section, new section 2. Is there a picture that shows that new section? I know it's not very much, but
No, you wouldn't see it from the I believe it's in the back section on page 3. You can kind of see it.
page 3.
It's not the lower portion, but the portion behind.
Mean that where the glass
No, it's not. It's not where the glass house is. It's actually behind that area.
where the those on a red wall is?
Yeah, behind there.
That looks actually more significant than 1,000 square feet.
Well, it's not all of it though.
Oh, okay. Anyways, yeah, that concludes my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnell, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I guess you're a little over my head on that page 56. You kind of lost me a bit. So all this is other than the new building, correct?
Yeah, it's other than the new building.
So, okay, so on your inflated cost of 2022, you got a total of 4,800,000. What's that 10,300,000 on the right? What does that signify?
10,325,701.
Yes.
That's the total replacement cost new.
Oh, geez. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Of just that part of those 5
No,
sections.
that would actually be the entirety of the property.
So the entire property, but you don't have that new part in that table.
No, because that property is separately costed out.
But still part of that 10 million.
It is, yeah.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Mr. Rivero. You have rebuttal?
Yeah. I do have rebuttal. It's on the assessor's comparison 3. $207.73. That's 310 Donald. So if you look at, does everyone have the rebuttal?
No.
Not yet.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, the rebuttal, pardon me, is in your file.
Okay. Do
yeah.
you have to refresh our agenda?
Sure,
Okay.
Please provide rebuttal to me as well.
I'll send that to you. Just a moment, please, Madam Assessor. Okay, Mr. Chair, the rebuttal for 241342 is titled 2024-1024 PMA applicant rebuttal 24-1342. And I will send it to the assessor right now. Excuse me.
I haven't.
I might have to refresh again. I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
It's right at the very bottom of the list.
Okay, at the very bottom, I've got 870 Scotland, so I think I have to refresh a second time. I'll try.
Okay, who doesn't have it? I can email it to you.
Okay, I'm
I
not
don't-
sure if I have it. I'm gonna look again. I tried refreshing the first time and I didn't get it. I have the applicant's rebuttal. Okay, now I've got it now.
Okay, anybody else who does not have it?
I don't have it.
I just sent it to you, Madam Assessor.
No, I still don't have it.
Okay, that was Mr. Arnell.
Yes, it was, yeah. I can refresh a third time maybe, but
Mr. Arnell, I just emailed it to you.
okay.
The rebuttal I've got is for 210 Maison Street.
No, pardon me. Let's see here.
It's wrong
Nice.
file. 24-1342. We have 24-2342.
Okay, I've got the email.
Okay, I'm sorry, I think I've sent the wrong. My apologies. Just a moment, please.
Okay.
So. Okay, so this one is 330 Carey, no, 194 Broadway. Good, thank you though. Okay, so that's 194 Broadway. Okay, I've just sent it to everybody.
Okay, I'll refresh. Thank you.
It'll come through an email.
Oh,
Mr.
will be an
Chair.
email. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I've got your
It's
new email.
Okay, I got it.
Okay,
Everyone's got it?
we
Yep.
have it.
we have assessor rebuttal.
Okay, I'll start on this. This is just regarding the
We didn't receive agent rebuttal yet.
Oh,
Oh. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm not playing with a full deck today. Or I guess I should say that to the chair. Let's try that again.
None of us are, Crystal. Don't worry about it.
Okay, okay,
Excuse me.
okay, let's try that again. I've just resent the applicant rebuttal.
You sent that as an email?
I did, yes.
It hasn't arrived here yet.
Nothing yet.
Okay.
Okay, I just got something. Okay. Does everybody have it now?
I don't have it yet. Oh, hang on.
Well, this is the 22-page document. Is that correct, Mr. Navarro?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Because mine says 210 Masson Street. Have I got the wrong one?
Oh, that's the wrong one.
Wrong one.
Yeah, this one should be 194 Broadway.
Okay. Then I don't know what happened there.
Mine says 310 Donald Street.
Yeah, that's the right one.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got 194 oh, I see. Okay. On the cover it says 194 Broadway, but the first page says 310 Donald Street. Okay.
Yeah, it's regarding the third sale comparable from the assessor.
Okay.
Hi,
It
Chris.
must be from a different
Yeah, I got her.
different docket. Okay, well, when I said I had it, I guess I didn't. I lied. Sorry. I have it.
Okay.
And everybody's good?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
21 pages, right? 21 pages?
Yeah. So this is regarding the third sale, 310 Donald Street. So several issues with this sale. Obviously, the first one is the age of the sale. 2013. However, I'll start with the property itself. So this is a large scale development. And you can see the picture of it on page 3 as it goes through the development process. This is the Alt Hotel and the corresponding condo building that's beside of it. It was all part of one assembly. On page 5, you can see the property. And you can see that what exchanged actually was the airspace. Airspace parcels A, B, and C in Plan 54237. Now, on page 9, you can see the transfer that it matches the $2.5 million consideration. The next page over on page 11, you can see appraisal rights on air rights, or appraisal on air rights. So air rights are appraised in a completely different manner. And this wasn't really regarding the land itself. It was more so the vertical penetration that was going to go up. On page 18, you can actually see the air right parcel, which is the location of the Alt Hotel. You can see what was included in the transfer or the sale. So it is that square portion inside the rectangle, and that's the air right parcel, and it goes up. The surrounding parcel, which is outlined, is the actual land. So we're only including the air rights of this property. More importantly, the issue of the assembly itself is even a greater problem with this sale. So on page 20, you can see the size and scope of this development at $148 million, 102,000 square feet, 5-story building with main floor and 4-story office space, glass house lofts, 195 condominium, and an attached parkade. So the hotel has 156 hotel rooms. Right there in the color or the shaded area, the last paragraph, it took 8 years to assemble the land, identify the developers, work through the pre-development process and construct these projects. Center Venture's strategic efforts and access to patient capital were the key ingredients to making this redevelopment happen. This is not comparable to what we were looking at. And in no way should this comparable be used or considered. So that is my rebuttal.
Any questions, Ms. Scheibe?
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Arnell?
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Boretsky?
No questions, thank you.
And I don't either. Thank you very much. So we've now completed this
No,
matter.
stop. We have my rebuttal as well.
You've got a rebuttal?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, everybody, let's see here. FNT rebuttal. Okay,
I don't know.
send it to you.
My paper.
Okay, I have just emailed that rebuttal to the panel, yourself and the panel, Mr. Chair. Now,
Thank
I need to send it to the applicant. How should I send it to you? Can I email it to you?
Yeah, but then how am I gonna?
Yes, I'm sorry, you're right. Mr. Chair, I need to print that rebuttal. May we take a recess?
You know, maybe it'll be a good time right now anyway. So why don't we recess then for, let's say, till 2:45?
Okay,
Okay?
Okay.
all right, thank you. Just a moment, please. I'll get us offline.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Scheibe is here. So Ms. Scheibe, we have, I guess, a rebuttal. I'm not sure how it pertains to. You have to explain it to us, I think.
Okay. You can see in my rebuttal location of comparables. We have red dot, it's 194 Broadway location of subject property. On bottom of
Which
this
page are you on, Ms. Scheibe? I'm looking at what I've got here.
194 Broadway separate document.
I see a red dot at 870 Scotland Avenue.
It's a wrong rebuttal because I was requested send separate page for free briefs.
I have the
In
same.
this case, maybe page 7, last page.
Scroll down to the bottom.
Okay,
Okay.
Everyone with me?
hang on, I'll be there. in a sec. Okay, I see where we're now. Okay,
So
thank you. Go ahead, Michael.
subject property 194 red dot on this map.
Mhm.
We have Donald on bottom of this map, Donald Street. On our right upper corner, Pioneer and Bannatyne. We can see that these three Donald, Pioneer, and Bannatyne closer to the subject property, and we can see that Hargrave, it will be upper left corner, farther from the subject property. And by the way, both of us use Pioneer, Bannatyne, and Donald. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Navarro?
No, I don't. I think I already addressed it in my presentation.
Mr. O'Neill, do you have any questions?
No questions, no thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Bresky?
No questions, thank you.
And I don't either, so thank you very much. Does any party require a summation on this?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Our job here today to analyze the market evidence to determine the best conclusion of market value. The subject property is banquet meeting hall. It's unique property with historical designation, and we both agree that cost approach would be best to this property. The age we have for cost approach, we have two main areas of disagreement. It's land rent, land price, and depreciated value of the subject of the building. We both use same master Swift commercial estimation that why our replacement cost building as new around 10 million. Biggest disagreement how much it's depreciated. According to taxation department, we have 1988 and agent use 1968. Regard the land value, we both use two comparable similar 330 Donald, 124 Bannatyne and Pioneer. It's both of our comparables similar. If you eliminate my third comparables because it just showing it was sale in 2013, it still give us average media of $135. So we both use same comparables on Donald, Bannatyne, Pioneer, but come to different conclusion. Based on my evidence, I ask you to confirm the 2025 assessed years for $4,740,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, do you require summation?
Yes, what I will say is that in terms of the land comparisons, I tried to stress the point that the sale prices per square foot for those properties were being derived by income for parking purposes, not necessarily the land rate. Even though we worked out a land rate based on the size, those prices are being attained for different reasons. So the only parcel in that entire grouping of both properties is 360 Hargrave, where we can say for sure that that is a value based solely on the land value. I'll also make a correction to, I believe one of the panel members had asked a question about the staircase, sorry, the addition in 2007. And you can actually find that in the report on page 65 and on page 82. Shows you a picture on page 82 and the outline of the addition on page 65. And it is just a staircase, an expensive staircase. So if you want to take a look at that, how to look at it, it is in the body of the appendix on page 65 and 82. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, then we'll close this item and we'll move on to item number 4 on the docket, which is the property at 210 Masons.
Mr. Chair, may I speak?
Yes.
The applicant for number 1, item number 1 is ready. How would you like to handle that?
Okay, well, you know what? I think it's gonna take as long for that one as it's gonna take the next two, having reviewed them.
All right,
So, unfortunately, I think, they're late and they're gonna have to wait. I feel bad for, the assessor, because he would have gone first then, but, unfortunately, I think we're better off just finishing with Ms. Scheibel's matters and then hearing it after.
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Scheibel?
Thank you. File number 24-1342, roll number 06060610100. The property located on 210 Mason Street. We assess subject property like, okay, for 2005 assessment, reference date April 1st, 2023, assessed value 1,497,000. The subject property right now, it's a banquet meeting hall. It's original bill in 2010 with addition to 1928. It's occupied area, land area of 39,231 square feet with gross floor area over 27,000 square feet. The subject property was originally sold in 2017 for 1.2 million. Right now, it's already approved for a developed condominium. The subject property located, if you look on page number 3, it's southeast side of the city, not far from Pravice Boulevard. On page number 4, more airport of subject property. Today, it's already zoning residential, multifamily. This district intends to accommodate the development of multifamily units in neighborhood with medium to high residential density. That's why to assess, we use this subject property, we use cost approach. On page number 6, you can see approval for interior exterior renovation to 210 Rue Mason for condominium. On page number 7, development permit. Zoning, only zoning compliance was changed October 2, 2024. Permit developed for exterior alteration, new entry door window replacement, restoring the existing masonry in new accessible entrance, and change of use to establish a new use, multifamily dwelling in an existing commercial building. On page number 8, we can see a cost approach for the subject property. Replacement cost new of building around 3 million. After full depreciation cost, total cost of the building 187,000. A land of value 1,310,000 give us estimation of 1,497,000. And you can see that in 2017, it was sold for 1.2 million. On page number 8, we can see cost summary of building section. We have section from 1910, 1928. So give us, after all depreciation, only 187,000. Let's look on land value. On page number 9, on bottom we have land value of 1,310,000. So for area of 39,231 square feet, rate $33.39. My four comparables showed median of $52.35. It's fair. Let's look on my comparables. Subject property located 502 Central St. Boniface. So all my four comparable very close proximity to the subject property. All have low or high residential density. My first comparable 780 Taché. It has area close to the subject property, over 39,000 square feet. It was sold in September 2020 with sale price around per square foot $40.01. My second comparable 738 St. Joseph Street has area of over 89,000 square feet, residential low density, sold in 2020 at for $4 million for $44.68 per square foot. My third comparable 339 Provincia Boulevard. It's only 6,000 square feet, sold in 2022 for $98.02 per square feet. And my fourth comparable close proximity, it's 9,000 square feet, was sold in 2020 with estimated sale price per square foot $39.42. So if you look on page number 10, last table, land building summary give us land value of 1,310,000 plus building depreciated cost of building 187,000 give us 1,497,000. On page number 12, more information about redevelopments. Historical designation, redevelopments of subject property on page 12, 13. More information on page 24. Right now you can see in expenses statement, it's only a parking revenue, that's it. On page 17, all my comparables, land sale comparables, let's look on top, 780 Taché, it was old improvements. First photo, second photo showed that it's completely new improvements today. On the property. On 738 St. Joseph, we can see old improvements during sale. And right now, if you switch on page 18, vacant land, wait for future developments. On page 18, 339 Provincia Boulevard, it was old building. Right now, on page 19, we have seen new building. And my last comparable 340 and File Crescent. It was residential building. Right now, if you look on page 20, it's much bigger improvements. And page 21 show 2025 property assessment at 1,497,000. Appeal. So based on evidence in my brief, I ask to confirm the 2025 assessed value of 1,497,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Nahiro?
I do, Ms. Scheibel, your inclusion of evidence on page 14 of a redevelopment of the site. This is current and ongoing?
It's approved. You
It's
can see,
approved.
yes,
Okay.
it will
So-
start soon. That's
Right.
why it's okay.
I gather that it is going to start soon. Do you know what the timeline would be for this construction?
I don't know yet.
I mean,
But
given
when
timelines,
building will be redeveloped in occupied, we will be change our classification from other to residential.
right, and that's the point that I was trying to get at is
Yes,
that,
when it's occupied, redevelop occupied.
right, so the redevelopment is maybe 1.5 to 2 years away in terms of completion and change. At that point, the city of Winnipeg would issue a supplementary assessment notice, correct?
No, we will still issue it cost approach until it's done.
Okay, I understand that, but in terms of the redevelopment, that's down the road. A supplementary would be issue would be noticed when it's complete, correct?
If it's complete, yes,
Okay, so right now, we are just dealing with the property as it is physically at this time, correct?
correct.
And it hasn't started yet, correct?
It's just approved.
Okay, so we're dealing with a 100-year-old building again. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnell, any questions?
No, no questions, thanks.
Mr. Moreski, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
And I have no questions. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Navarro, you can proceed.
Yes, and I will note, Mr. Chair, that I do have rebuttal on this property as well. I'll present that after.
We'll like,
I don't think this is gonna take very long at all, because I think the only real issue is land. So if you turn to page 16 of my presentation, you'll notice there that I have a total building value of $197,000. I believe that is just above what the depreciated cost of the assessor's valuation on the building is. The difference is really the land value that we've accounted for. So the assessor is using a value of $1,310,000. I'm using a value of $980,775. I can go over the cost, but I don't really think it's relevant. The only thing that we have in terms of our approaches is the different land values that we've accounted for. So for specific reasons, I'll get into that in my rebuttal. I reviewed the sales that Ms. Scheibel actually looked at, and in the end, I concluded that I couldn't use them. So I went outside of the area. I had no choice but to go outside of the area to find a parcel of land similar in size. In terms of location, we're not going to get to the location simply because there isn't anything in this area of this size that would compare. So really the only comparison that I saw was in, I believe, if I'm not mistaken here, Sage Creek. You can see the 2022 sale there. 33,137 square feet, sold for $28.64 per square foot. That would really be the only comparison that I could find that is comparable. There is the other one on St. Anne's Road at 3272. However, there would be additional issues that would have to be worked out with this property simply because of the building that's there. And the area that we're there. So I came to a conclusion of about $25. I believe the city's model is sitting around 33 or so. So that's where I'm at. I'm ready for questions.
okay, Ms. Scheibel, questions?
Yes, please. You would agree that your land far away from the subject property and have different market price. Is it true or not?
I would say that there's no choice. You have to go to other areas. But to get to your answer, yes, there would be some differences in the market for clean land, no obstacles to development, Sage Creek, there's nothing there in terms of obstacles to development, just shovel ready. So that's the difference.
Would you agree that subject property land close proximity to downtown to Provincial Boulevard will be much higher than your
You know, Ms.
comparable?
Chabot, you're asking questions that I think aren't necessary. We're aware of where it's located. And I think Mr. Navarro is too. We know that the location is different. And we know that the properties that Mr. Navarro is referring to are different. So you don't think
And
this,
also, I would like ask about sale date. Would you agree that sale in 2016? It's 6 years before reference date. You didn't apply any adjustment
oh, Ms.
for
Chabot,
your
if you
land
ask,
price, correct?
Ms. Chabot, you're asking questions now, not making argument. So don't try to guys argument on the basis of questions. If you have a question, ask Mr. Martin. Okay?
It's my question. You didn't apply any time adjustment for sale in 2016 for 6 years prior to reference date? 7 years.
So just to be clear, I didn't average these out, okay? I applied a rate that I thought was maybe appropriate for this location, taking into account that there are differences in the locations, but we are still dealing with a, 30,000 square foot or 39,000 square foot parcel of land that is zoned RMFL. So those are the considerations that I took, and I came up with a value of about $25 per square foot.
You would agree that not doing any adjustment for sale date will be undervalue the subject land?
Well, again, the value that I chose is way above those comparisons that you're referring to, so.
No further questions. Can we look on my my rebuttal?
No, because we have to ask questions right now.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Mr. Ressi, do you have any questions of the applicant?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nell, do you have any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Navarro, you're probably going to answer this question with your rebuttal, I hope, because it appears that the assessment department has used comparables that are much closer to the subject property.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you get that when you do your rebuttal. Okay, thank you. I have no questions then.
Do you want me to do my rebuttal now?
I think that would be good. Yes.
Okay. So let's everyone open up the rebuttal.
Can I have rebuttal, please?
I'll send it to you. Mr. Chair, the rebuttal is in the OneDrive
Okay.
file for everybody. And I will send the rebuttal to Madame Assessor.
Where is it?
It is in the OneDrive file, and it'll be called 210, it'll be, there's applicant rebuttal, and then there is A&T rebuttal. And the file number is 241342 at 210 Mason Street.
Okay, I have the file, but I don't have a rebuttal on there. Or-
If you can't find it, I'll help you in just a moment.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I found it.
All right, okay, who can't find the rebuttal? Mr. Chair.
I'm not sure I have it.
I don't have it. I can't find it.
I don't
have
have
it.
rebuttal.
Okay, so if you go into your OneDrive folder,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Oh,
so
hang on, here it is.
it says it'll say
Yeah.
AT rebuttal, and then, but underneath that, it says applicant rebuttal for 210 Mason.
I got him. I had to refresh.
Okay,
I receive a rebuttal from wrong file. No? No, sorry, it's same, sorry.
Mr. Chair, do you have your rebuttal?
I do have it, thank you.
Okay, everybody else have the rebuttal?
Yes.
We're good?
Yes.
We're good, everyone?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Let's start on your page 2. The first property that I'm dealing with is 340 Enfield Crescent, and that is the assessor's comparison 4. You can see the pictures on page 2. There is a house, and this is before the sale. This transaction included the sale of a house. You can see the transaction next on page 3. You can see the sale price, the sale date, everything matches. I don't believe the assessor includes an instrument number, but this is the instrument number for that sale. You can see the size of the land details and also the living area of the house. And again, this is a house and a detached garage. Now, what I would say about this is that if you're going to include a sale of vacant land and there are buildings included in that sale, regardless of what the purchaser thought the value of it was, the vendor in their proposal and their transaction included a house and land. So that should have been factored into any adjustment on the sale, which it appears it has not. So that is the reason we did not look at 340 Enfield. I did review that sale, but further into the research, I discovered that it also included a building, and actually a building and an outbuilding. The next property that we're looking at is on your page 4, and it is 738 St. Joseph Street. And that is the assessor's comparable number 2. So 738 St. Joseph Street is under a secondary plan that does not allow for further development of industrial properties. The plan is known as, the secondary plan is bylaw 30/2017. The subject is in a high density area. However, the site remains undeveloped and split into 3 zoning categories: industrial, residential multifamily medium, and residential 1 medium. These zoning categories obviously remain in place. The site is unsuited for comparing with the subject, as the subject only carries 1 zoning category, residential multifamily large. As well, the subject does not allow the density that would be achieved by 738 St. Joseph Street. This is a significantly larger parcel. And as well, a parcel this size could accommodate several buildings with a much larger buildable density, therefore achieving a higher value in the marketplace. On page 5, you can see the mapping there, the general layout of the secondary plan. Our area is just to the left side where it says higher density. And below you can see the overlay map of the property showing the 3 split classes, M1, R1N, and RMFM. So with 738 St. Joseph, if you're gonna argue at this on economies of scale, you have to note that for a property this large and in its location, they would be buying the buildable density, and the buildable density on a parcel of this size would be significantly higher than the subject. In terms of the next one, it is 339 Provencher Boulevard. 339 Provencher Boulevard is the assessor's comparison 3. As we can see below in the picture, the sale also included This picture was taken after the purchase and included the sale, but this one did also include the sale of a building and land. If you look over on the next page, you can see the sale date 2022-06/30, sale price of $600,000, and you can clearly see the building that was included. And you can see in the details of the property, the land details and the commercial building details. So as with 340 Enfeld, we're not denying that the sale didn't occur. It obviously did occur, but it wasn't a straight land sale. And some adjustments should have been made for that building because ultimately the vendor sold it as a commercial property with a commercial building on it. So that is one consideration that we took also on that one and why we didn't include it. On page, I'm sorry I didn't number these, so I will just count these pages. On your page 10, we should be getting into the last one, which is comparison number 1. Which is 780-8. So the first little paragraphs and chart that you see there was taken straight out of the International Association of Assessing Officers. And they have a guideline book on best practices. And this would also be relevant to appraisers as very similar language can be found in appraisal texts as well. But this pertains specifically to the use of multiple parcel sales. And you see in the second paragraph, I'll just read all of it. If appraisers need to include multiple parcel sales, they should determine whether the parcels are contiguous and whether there is a single economic unit or multiple economic units. Regardless of whether the parcels are contiguous, any multiple parcel sale that involves multiple economic units generally should not be used in valuation or ratio studies. So now I'll get into this property. First of all, 780-8 is the address that it was given after it was purchased, and applications were made to redevelop these sites. Now, on the picture below there, you can actually see the sites as they existed prior to the purchase. And there were several sites here. In fact, in total, there were 6 parcels with 4 improvements representing at the very least 4 economic units. So going back to the original language that I spoke about, this was one reason you probably wouldn't want to use this sale, is because it involved multiple economic units in terms of the sale. On top of that, as you can see clearly in the picture, there are buildings everywhere. So if you're not accounting for that somewhere in terms of an adjustment, then you're not really properly documenting this sale. So on the next page over, we can see one of the former properties, and you can see that the details match in terms of the sale. 1,573,756. Sale occurs on 2020-09-25. And you can see in this particular case that it is including a house, okay? On the next page over, and that property was known as 140 Grandin Street. The next property is known as 148 Grandin Street. And again, it includes the details of the sale itself, which again, multiple parcel sale, including land and a building. So going to the next one, which is 782-8, you can see this one, again, land and a building. The next one over, 784-8, appears to be only including land. And the last one, I believe, is 788-8, and that one also includes a building. So getting back to my original point, sorry, there's another one, 790 Taché. And I believe this one is also, yeah, also includes a building. So, apart from the fact that, you know, there was a bunch of buildings on these different parcels and they sold together, you would have needed to make some type of adjustment for that to begin with. But from the standpoint of best practices, the Association of Assessment Officers or International Association of Assessment Officers pretty much says, no, you can't do this. You can't use multiple economic units, multi-parcel sales. Shouldn't be used in valuation. The appraisal practice also discourages from this type of practice. So this is one property that I didn't have any problem saying, no, this can't be used as a relevant sale. And the adjustments for it would be so complicated that I wouldn't know where to start. So I would not use it. That's my rebuttal. I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Navarro. Ms. Scheibel, any questions?
Yes. Regard sale, my comparables, all my sale with building on top.
You're asking questions right now, Ms. Scheibel.
For what? I didn't did my presentation, rebuttal yet.
I asked you if you wanted to ask any questions of Mr. Navarro at this point.
It's rebuttal. What kind of question you wait from me?
I'm asking you if you have any questions of Mr.
No, thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Mr. Arnell, do you have any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, and I have not either. Okay. Ms. Scheibel, since there's no questions, you can now present your rebuttal.
Everyone has page from 210 Mason Street.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can see red dot, it's subject property 210 Mason. We will look on right corner, 11 Tassi Drive, 85 Lawrence. You can see how far away from the subject property class 2 places. It's already different. It looks like a more industrial zoning. Another comparables on bottom right side, Gray Heron Drive. It's after South Parkland. So my point is that for land value, we have to find more sale close to the subject property, because this comparable should be upward adjustment for location. If it's not didn't make, it's undervalued the land, undervalued land value. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, any questions?
If you just give me 1 second.
And plus, we have free sale from 2016, one sale from 2018, and only one sale prior to reference date 2025. So should be adjustment for location, for type of sale, and it will be bring because it's inferior sales compared to subject property land. Thank you. Any questions?
Do you acknowledge that some of these properties that you have included in your comparisons included properties with improvements at the time of the sale?
Yes, all my 4 comparables involved sale price should be put demolition cost because it's bought for redevelopments. My comparables on 780 Taché, it's multi-sale, but this sale for redevelopments by one owner. It's a multi-sale, but it's a very, this transaction was done specific consideration and done research analysis prior to use this valuation in ratio station. So it's clear redevelopment sale for us. Yes, this price $14 per square foot have to be reduced by demolition costs, but it's our assessment, $33 per square foot. It's already accommodated for demolition cost and site is price. All my comparables for future redevelopments.
Okay,
So
so,
it's for us, it's clean land sale, and we
Okay.
can clearly distinguish size of land.
okay,
And was
but,
sale in same day. So it's multi-sale, but it's clear sale.
okay, but the sales that you've offered clearly don't include any type of adjustment. So,
You can see that my comparables over much higher what we assess. It's already built in. So it's
I realize that, Ms.
from
Scheibel.
$40 to $33. So it's include demolition cost.
I realize that.
It's
Ms.
already
Scheibel,
took
that
in
you-
consideration.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if your sales actually include, sorry, if your adjustment on the land value includes some type of adjustment based on demolition of these properties, you haven't shown that adjustment in your sales. Second of all,
You're asking questions now, Mr.
sorry, where is
Farrell.
that information?
Yes, I missed this information. That's why I put photos. That yes, it was old improvements was demolished and built completely new. But all my comparables showed $52 per square foot. And we assess $33.39. It's fair.
Okay, next question is, Ms. Scheibel, in terms of the vendor, would the vendor actually consider the sale price as simply a land transaction minus demolition cost? Or are they selling a property with the improvements and they're basing the sale value on what that property is worth with those improvements? Which is it?
It's a sale as is with all improvements. So when purchase buyer is, he know demolition costs at least 10,000. It's peanuts compared to sales.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nell, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky, any questions?
No question, thank you.
And I don't either. Thank you very much. So, gotta get back here now. Okay. Sorry, it's taking time for my OneDrive to open up again. Okay. Okay, so we next go to item number 5, the final for your matters, Ms. Scheibel, 870 Scotland Avenue, and when you're ready, you can proceed.
If I'm not mistaken, for this property was liability, appeal or not?
Ms. Navarro, you're not appealing liability, are you?
No, it's assessment only, sorry. Done.
No.
I think it said it in the
There is an
agenda.
exemption stream.
Yeah, it's already there.
Okay. File number 24-3354, roll number 12015339100, located subject property at 870 Scotland Avenue. We assess 2025 years for $2,226,000 with split for institutional exemption, $1,283,000 in taxable $943,000. The subject property is daycare, a 2-story building, original built in 1970, has land area of 36,693,000, with plan area of improvements 9,100. Leasable area 14,000, leasable area, gross area 14,018 square feet. On page number 2, we can see the subject property was sold in 2015 for $1 million. In 2015, it's 8 years before reference date. The subject property located on page number 2, it's a southwest side of the city. Street view on page number 3. The subject property on page rectangle shape facing Scotland Avenue. More air photos on page number 5 and 6. So on page 6, it's facing Scotland Avenue. So another side, it's Grant Avenue and closes Stafford Street. So the subject property residential multifamily. This district intends to accommodate the development of multifamily units in neighborhood with medium to high residential densities. We assess subject property split. We assess taxable 5,822 square feet at $12.34. On page number 8, exemption portion, it's 8,196 square feet at $11.94. On page number 7, I presented comparables, 12 comparables close to the subject property, and they showed that average $15.38 and media $13 per square foot. My comparable on Nassau building built in 1975, close to the subject property 97. I have 2 comparables on main and second floor at $17.72 and $17.97. My comparables 3 through 5 on 698 Caridon. Comparable number 3 store 1 or 2, it's main floor, rent from 11, and second floor rent from 11, and comparable number 5 in 2000 years, it's 50,000 square feet, rented $15 per square foot. My comparable 6, 710 Caridon, more younger building, 2002. You can see rent right away, $22.76 in 2012. Comparable number 7, 1900 Caridon, old building, inferior to the subject property, built in 1938, rent in 2012 at $18.25. My comparable number 8 on Pembina, 701 Pembina, building 1988, rent in 2021 at $15.33. Another on Pembina, 850 Pembina, building 1977, rent and 2022 at $15 per square foot. My comparables 850, we have 2 units. One unit's 8,000 square feet and 50, and another unit's over 11,000 square feet and $15 per square foot in 2002. And my comparables 1112 on 611 Caridon. You can see that on main floor, units 1 or 2, rent for $14.50. At second floor, 2 or 2 units at $11 per square foot. That give us media $15 per square foot. We apply $12.34 for area 5,822 square feet. Give us potential rent over 72,000. We apply vacancy law 6%, not recoverable expense 3%. Give us net operating income of 62,711. For his stream model generates 6.65%, give us estimation for taxable portion of 943,000. And page number 8, exemption part, we apply $11.94 for 8,196 square feet. Give us estimation potential rent of close to $98,000 We apply same 6% vacancy loss, expenses not recoverable 3%, and shortfall $8 per square foot for vacant space. It's across all offices under 3-story, across the city suburban offices. For this stream, net operating income, 85,294. For capitalization rate, 6.65%, give us estimation 1,283,000. On page number 9, we have summary page. So potential rent for the subject property close to 170,000. We apply vacancy loss 6, 3% not recoverable expenses, $8 per square foot for vacant space. Give us net operating income 148,005. Capitalization rates for subject property 6.6 for SEC 5 give us 2,226,000. If you look for capitalization rate of page number 10, it will be suburban office between 60% of the property between 5.25 to 6.75% capitalization rate. Model generates 6.65%. On page number 12, I presented cost approach for the subject property. Replacement cost of new building, 2.4 million. After all depreciation total cost of the building, 489,000. Land value of subject property, 2,061,000. Give us total value of cost, 2.55 million. The subject property sale, you can see in 2015 for 1 million. You can, on same page 12, cost summary by building section. It's for after depreciation 489,000 by using our cost system in-house using cost estimation Marshall Suite. On page number 13, land value of subject property was assessed at over 2 million, give us rent of $56.70. I have presented 6 comparables. Suburban first 2 comparables very close to the closest to the subject property. If subject property 106 Euro Gray is 103. It's on Sherbrooke and Maryland. So let's look. First comparable on Sherbrooke. We have, if subject property have around 37,000 square feet, it's only 12,300 square feet. It's residential multi-use. Sale in 2020 at sale price of $52.44. Transfer number 5157238. My comparable number 2 on Maryland Street, over 8,000 square feet, sold in 2023 January at $74.84. Transfer number 5504332. Third comparable 349 Wardlaw Avenue, close to 12,000 square feet. It's commercial, sold in 2022 at $91.44. It's much higher because it's commercial. It should be done further adjustment for multifamily zoning. My comparables on 4 on 320 River Avenue, close to 10,000 square feet. Residential high density, like subject property, sale in 2022 at $18.32. Transfer number 5388759. My comparables number 554 Barnett Street. It's high density, like subject property, multifamily. Sold in 2021 at $83.87. And my last comparables on Pembina, residential high density multifamily zoning like subject property sold in March 2022 with sale price per square foot $55.15, and we assess subject land in $56.70. It's closest comparables in our assessment. So it's my six comparables gives media on $77.58. On page number 14, summary list. It's split by liability, but it will be give us 2.55 million by cost. That approaches to value used in this report indicates the follow value for the subject property on page 15. Final estimation of value, cost approach 2,550,000, income approach 2,226,000. The income approach was the approach used by the City of Winnipeg Assessment Taxation Department to value the subject property for the 2025 general assessment. The cost approach provides a frame of reference, and in this case indicates that income approach value is reasonable. Therefore, the final estimate of values of subject property 2,226,000. On page 16, income expense mailer presented for us, returned to us. It's owner occupied building. On page 19, let's look air photo of my subject of my comparables, rent comparables. My comparables on page 19, 301 Nassau Street. It has two-floor building, very similar, close to the subject property, two-floor building. My comparable on 19, it's a 698 Corridor Avenue, facing Corridor to the north, to the south of side. It's if you look on page number 20, it's two-floor building, similar to the subject property. My comparables on page 27, 10 Corridor, narrow size, one-story building on street photo on page 21. 900 Corridor Avenue, narrow size, land, and one-floor building. You can see on page 22. 701 Pembina Highway, triangle building, two-floor building, street view on page 22. I have comparable 750 Pembina Avenue. It consists of two buildings. If you see on bottom on page 23, 815, it's north building. We have three buildings in row to the south. And street view of Otis building on page 24. My comparables on 611 Corridor. You can see it's a rectangle shape of the land, two-floor building, street view on page 24. And let's look on my land comparables. My first land comparables on 198 Sherbrooke. During sale, it was vacant land. Right now, it has improvements. On page 25, Maryland Street, during sale, it was vacant land. If you switch page 26, today it's a parking space. On page 26, 349 Warlow, you can see old improvements after demolition. It was new improvements. You can see by shape of air photos, completely new improvements here. On page 27, during sale on 320 River Avenue, it was a small building, today vacant land for future developments. 54 Barney Street, during sale it was parking space. And on page 28, you can see development started, already improvement there. On page 28, 18, 19, Pembina Highway, during sale it was like parking lot. Today it's completely vacant space, developments coming. On page 29, you can see 2025 property assessment notes, aside June 5, 2024 at 2,226,000. Based on evidence in my report, I am asking to confirm the 2025 assessed value of 2,226,000. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Marinsky, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnell, do you have any questions?
No questions at this time, thanks.
Thank you, and I don't either. So, Mr. Navarro, you can proceed with your evidence.
Mr. Chair, I'd like if you could confirm or ask the panel to confirm this assessment.
Okay, we can confirm it at the request of the applicant.
Yeah.
Okay, therefore that completes your matters today, Mr. Navarro. So you can leave whenever you're ready, and we'll proceed with the last matter that we have today. Ms. Scheibel, you're also finished, so thank you for your presentation as well. And both of you will hear from us in short order.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
great day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, before we let anybody else in, if Mr. Navarro would have,
Just a moment, please, Mr. Chair.
okay. I'm just saying, okay, sorry. It's
Mr.
okay, you know,
Chair,
we
does
can-
anybody want a break?
No, we don't need a break right now. I think we can, does anybody need a break?
Okay.
Okay,
We can proceed with the next matter.
okay, I've let the assessor and the applicant into the meeting, so we can just give them a couple of seconds.
Certainly.
Have a good day, everyone.
Okay,
Thank
see
you.
ya.
Thank
Bye.
you very much.
Thank you.
And you know what I was just gonna say, Marcel,
Yeah.
I wasn't talking behind your back. I was just gonna say that if you could have asked us to confirm earlier, we would have saved some
Oh,
time.
I'm sorry. I completely lost track of it, but yes.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Really. Okay, Mr. Chair, it seems that everybody's here.
Okay, so we can swear in the assessor and the applicant and then proceed with number one on the agenda being 330 Gary Street.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Jason Brown?
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, would you please state your full name?
Arson Horsburgh.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the matter that we're dealing with is 330 Gary Street. And Mr. Brown, when you're ready, you can proceed with your evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is file 24-846. Roll number is 13052155100. Civic address is 330 Gary Street. We have a 2025 assessment in the roll at $3,352,000. This is the old Garrick Theater. Just a little backs information. It was announced in 2000 that Cineplex Odeon would be closing the theater at the end of the year. In 2002, the Marlborough Hotel, located across the back lane, purchased it and began a multi-year $1.5 million renovation of the building. So it is now attributed, or it's now attached to the Marlborough Hotel, and it's being used as amenities for the hotel. So the building was being used as a live performance venue until it was closed in 2020, December of 2020, due to COVID restrictions. At this point, it became a provincially operated COVID testing site until at least March of 2022, which is about a year before the reference date. Turning to page 2. We did receive the request for income and information in 2020 and 21. However, we did not receive the information for 2022 due to the sale. I will note that the INEs that were returned were a combined statement with the adjacent property of the hotel at 331 Smith. So both properties were combined onto one financial statement. Below that, we can see the subject sales history. So we can see that this sold in July 2022 for 2.55 million, 2,550,000. This was a multi-role sale combined with the hotel at 331 Smith. The combined sale price was 5.65 million. So I have 3 different approaches to value on this property. So it's a bit unique. I'm actually going to start with the hotel valuation on page 8. I'll just wait for everybody to get to that page.
Okay.
Okay, so the hotel was already heard at the Board of Revision on September 10th, I believe. I have the order in the addenda later, which I will point out. So the hotel was heard on September 10th. And if you look at the workup for the hotel, you have the 2020 column, the 2021 column, and the 2022 column, which is blank due to the sale. We follow that down to we can go over to the stabilized column where we've stabilized the income and the expenses. And then if we go down from there, we can see at the very bottom in red, we have the conference center, and at the current roll number, this is the subject property for today's hearing. This was deducted from the hotel valuation. So the 2 properties were valued together. And because they're paying the taxes on the conference center, we've deducted that from the total of the hotel. So the total value, you can see that was a recommendation to reduce the hotel value to $1,539,000. The total combined value of the 2 properties is currently at $4,891,000. And that's achieved by adding those 2 figures together. And once again, this is versus a sale price at 5.65 million. So you're going to hear that the building is experiencing problems at the reference date. And that's why we've recommended a value lower than the sale price. So going back to my income approach for the conference center, which is done on an office model. So that's on page 3. I have my rent comparables. There's 13 comparables. They're ranging from 5,500 square feet all the way up to 47,600 square feet. These are all office properties situated downtown. And we can see the net rents range from $10 per square foot up to $18.50 per square foot. So continuing on to the next page where we have our income workup. We can see the subject property has a leasable area of 30,000 square feet. We've used a model rent of $11.13. We reduced that by 12% because of some of the problems that this property has been experiencing. We've given the expenses at 3% and the shortfall at $14 per square foot. We've capitalized the net operating income of $234,617 at 7%, and that yields the final value of $3,352,000 rounded. Following that, on page 5, I have the cost approach for the subject property. So we can see we have a replacement cost for new at $6,820,000 and change. We reduced that by 89% for depreciation, so down to $750,000. Once again, taking into account the condition of the building. We have a land value of $2,946,000. And so when we add those 2 together, it gives us a total cost value of $3,696,000. I have some land sale comparables on the following page and some information on the subject land parcel. So the subject is 22,214 square feet of the land. Below that, I have 5 comparables. These are, once again, they're all downtown. They're all taking place between 2019 and 2021, so pretty close to the reference date. The sizes are pretty similar. The sizes of the first 3 are very similar to the subject. The comps 4 and 5 are a bit smaller, about a quarter of it. So I would say comp 1 and 2 are my best 2 comps. Those come in at $136 per square feet and $132 per square feet. The model value of $2,946,000 that we're using for the land does come in at $132,000. So those comps support that valuation. Going forward to page 10, we have the capitalization rates. This is being valued as an office. So you can see our cap rates, I believe this is considered downtown B, so our cap rates are 7% for this property. And those fall into line with what we're seeing in the outside sources generally. Page 12, you can see on the map where the subject property is situated downtown. There's some aerial photographs on page 13 and some street photographs on page 14. Page 15 and 16 show some interior photographs. Carson and I did inspect this property before our September 10th hearing for the hotel portion. So the first picture on the top left of page 15 is the skywalk that connects the 2 buildings. Below that, you can see the swimming pool and water slide, which are amenities of the hotel. And then one of the theaters on the top of page 16 and the lobby below that. So this was being used as a live concert venue up until COVID, like I mentioned before, and then was being used as a COVID testing site after that. We have a zoning map on page 17. This is zoned M, which is multiple use sector. This is one of the more, it's designed to allow less restrictions, and it's one of the better zonings for downtown. Page 18 shows the order for the hotel on that we heard on September 10th. That was reduced from $2,550,000 down to $1,539,000. Once again, that was to account for the current problems that the building is experiencing. We did treat these as one economic unit when we valued it as a hotel. And so the reduction in essence has already been achieved by lowering the hotel portion of that of the 2. Page 21 shows some of the areas of the hotel, and below that they show some of the areas that are contained within the Garrick Center. So Garrick 1 was a 603 seat theater. Garrick 2 is a 550 seat live music venue. Garrick 4 was a 250 seat lecture hall. And the former Garrick 3 is home to the whole hotel's pool and water slide. Page 22, this is an article from the Winnipeg Free Press dated December 12th, 2020. So this is when the live music venue ceased to operate due to COVID. I've highlighted a couple passages, first one being on page 23, just showing that it did turn into a COVID-19 testing site run by the provincial government. The following highlighted passages is on page 25. This gives some of the history of the property, which I had mentioned before. They purchased this, the hotel owner, which was Manfred Bohm at the time, purchased this property. It's technically across the back alley from the hotel. and that they invested $1.5 million to bring the center up to modern standards as a conference center and entertainment venue. The following page says, has a quote from Boehm saying that the pandemic made it clear the business model was no longer sustainable. And that the opportunity to get some income from the building by renting to the province made sense. And then lastly, on page 27, there's an highlighted passage just about how once the need for testing goes away and COVID is a memory, there would be a tremendous waste or loss to not resurrect this as a concert facility, which is probably its highest and best use at this point. The rent comparables, I believe, are actually not correct, and they do not jive with my rent comparables that I listed earlier, so we can just ignore those, please. The land comparables do jive with my land comparables that I did show earlier. So there's just some aerial photographs of those land comparables. And then going forward, there's just some documentation about the appeal. And then on, oh, sorry, it's not numbered. After page 40 is the income and expense statements. So technically page 41, I'll just note that first page, they do indicate that they have a pool and water slide, showing that these statements are combined. They're treating it as one economic unit. So we are also treating it as one economic unit. They are physically joined by a skywalk. Unfortunately, the property is currently vacant. I feel like we've accounted for that with the 12% vacancy in the office income approach. It has only been vacant 1 year prior to the reference date. We don't usually, our highest vacancy is 25% that we allow, and that's only for multiple years of chronic vacancy. So I feel like we've accounted for that. We've reduced the hotel already to below the sale price to account for the current condition and economic problems that they're experiencing. So based on that, we ask that this be confirmed at $3,352,000, and I am open for questioning. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Horsborough, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions for Mr. Brown. So I just want to start on page 1, or no, sorry, page 2. So I just want to confirm that we have the sworn value for the Garrick Theater, 2.550 million. Is that right?
The allocation for the theater was 2.55 million. However, they were bought as one. It was a multi-role sale. They were bought together, and the total sale price was 5,650,000. I'll note that we didn't put the hotel property to the sale price. It's considerably lower, almost half. And because we're valuing these together, the reduction's already taken place on the hotel.
Okay, so how does the assessment department justify increasing over an 8-month period between the reference date and the registered sale date? How does the assessment and taxation department justify increasing the value by about over $800,000?
Well, once again, we've treated this as a multi-role sale. We've combined the two sales into one sale price at $5,650,000. And the current assessment is at $4,891,000. So we're already below the sale price on the combined sale.
Moving on to page 3, just looking at your rent comparables. Are any of these buildings similar to the subject property?
They are not. These are all office properties. There's a range of different styles of office properties included in these comparables. But no, there is no similar properties to this one downtown.
Okay. How can the assessment taxation department justify the rent for the subject property based off of a bunch of office rents that aren't at all similar to the subject property?
Well, once again, I've justified the assessment on three different levels, not only the office model value, but the cost approach, which comes in higher than the income approach, and through the hotel valuation, where when we combine these, we've reduced the hotel below the sale price. In essence, because the subject property is deducted from the hotel, if we were to lower the subject property, in essence, the hotel would go up in value. And because there was already a decision on that, my hands are tied in terms of, because it's valued together, there's almost two components, and the one component's been heard already and reduced. And so now this component, if reduced, would in turn make the hotel value go up.
So you would agree that these rent comparables don't really provide any sort of justification for the rent applied in assessing the subject property?
I mean, most of them are higher than the subject property. They are superior. So if you were to factor in that they are superior, and that the fact that we're using a lower rent per square foot, I'd say it's justified.
And sorry, so just confirming, none of these properties are downtown theaters.
No,
They're all offices,
that's correct.
and the subject property isn't an office. Is that right?
We classify it as an office.
Okay, and in reality, it's a theater. It's not an office.
Yeah, but all the theaters are done on the office model.
Okay. And so the subject property, the assessment taxation department, the value that we're discussing today, that is the income derived value, correct?
Correct, but because it's tied in with the hotel, I mean, in essence, we could have lowered this and kept the hotel the same, and achieve that same total value of 4.891 million. Because there's two components, we chose to reduce the hotel. It was experiencing more problems at the time. I do feel that this conference center is not obsolete. It could be used as a live concert venue again. And I do believe that's the highest and best use.
Okay. Looking at page 6 of your disclosure, the land comparable sales, are you aware that each of those comparables are parking lots?
I am aware of that, yes. I have pictures at the end of my evidence.
And so would you agree parking lots are income producing assets?
Yeah, but and we'll see in your evidence that they also can be developed, and they have been developed. These are vacant land. They're currently being used as a parking lot, correct?
Okay, so would you agree they're not vacant land, they're being used as parking lots?
There is no building situated on these properties, which makes them vacant. They are currently being used as parking lots, much like your comparables, which we'll see coming forward.
And then I just want to look at page 8 of the disclosure. The connected Marlborough Hotel is valued with a 10% capitalization rate. Why wasn't the 10% capitalization rate applied to the subject property?
There's two components to the hotel value. We valued the hotel as one economic unit with a 10% cap, but then we reduced the conference center, reduced it by the value of the conference center. This is not unique to hotels. There's multiple hotels that have their vendor on a different roll number. We treat them the same way. It's an amenity of the hotel. It helps the hotel generate income and occupancy. In this case, it's a pool with a water slide. So we treat them as one economic unit. We do the same thing for hotels which have vendors on separate roll numbers, and there's also hotels that have parking lots on separate roll numbers. Same thing with the parking lot. We treat that as an amenity of the hotel. It's required so that their guests or people visiting the hotel for food or beverage can use, or banquet can use that parking lot. So our justification is that it's required, it's a required part of the hotel. And because they're paying their full taxes on that, we deduct it from the hotel. So to get the total value, you need to add them back together. And that's why I said if you reduce the value of the subject for today's hearing, in essence, the final value for the hotel would actually go up.
Okay, so I just want to confirm the Assessment and Taxation Department treats the Marlborough Hotel and the Garrick Theatre as one economic unit. Is that right?
Yeah, and they were purchased on the same day by the same owner. I believe the owner does as well. Thank you.
So if the two properties are assessed as one economic unit, how does the Assessment and Taxation Department justify using two different cap rates to assess one economic unit?
We valued both buildings as a hotel with a 10% cap. We then reduced it by the amount of the subject property in today's hearing, which is done on in the end of it wouldn't matter if this was $2 million, then the hotel would go up by $2 million. So it really doesn't matter at the end of the day how we derive the value for this component when we're deducting it from the total hotel value.
Okay, I'm just looking at page 4. We have capitalization rate 7%, and then on page 8 we have capitalization rate 10%. So is the Garrick Hotel being valued with a 7% capitalization rate, or a 10 or Garrick Theatre, sorry, or a 10% capitalization rate?
Both buildings are being valued as a hotel with a 10% cap. And then the value of the conference center, which is done on an office model, is being deducted from that total value. So the original total value of the hotel was 5 million. Oh no, the sale price was. If we go to the order on page 18, we can see that the hotel started at $2,550,000. It was reduced to $1,539,000. So in essence, we've already reduced this $1 million. It was at 5,891,000 or close to. I'd have to add those two figures together. But in essence, what I'm saying is the value of the conference center at the end of the day, it could be $2 million, but then the hotel value would go up by the equivalent amount.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. No further questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Dell, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, thanks.
Mr. Mareski, do you have any questions?
So where was that page where you subtracted the
On page 8.
of the conference center?
Yeah, on page 8.
Page
So that's
8?
our hotel valuation, which was heard on September 10th. And you can see we've used the net operating income of $575,440. We've capitalized that by 10%. And then we've reduced that by 15%, which is FF&E deduction. That stands for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which we're not assessing. So that's why we make that deduction. And then we've reduced it by the equivalent of the assessment for today's subject property. You can see the conference center at the current roll number, $3,352,000. We've reduced it by that amount. So what we're saying is that both of these buildings are one economic unit, and because they're being assessed separately, the hotel owner would then pay their taxes on the conference center and get the reduction on the hotel. But when you add them up, it would still be the $4,891,000. And like I said, this is done for hotels with some hotels have vendors on separate roll numbers. And it's the exact same thing where that vendor is part of the hotel operation. but because they're not merged onto the same roll number, we have to make an adjustment. Otherwise they'd be paying, there's no way to value a hotel and a beer vendor separately. They're in essence, they're tied together. There's common wages, there's common stock, common utilities, stuff like that. So this is a process, and it's universally accepted by most agents, where we reduce the hotel value by the assessment of the other component of the hotel, so that they're only paying the taxes on the total when you add them back together. It's a bit
You
confusing, but
couldn't just have reduced this one by the same factor as the whole thing was reduced.
unfortunately, these are on different dockets. If they were on the same docket, I could have just reduced each one by $500,000 instead of just reducing the hotel by $1 million. Honestly, though, at the end of the day, I'm okay with that, because the hotel is the one that's experiencing problems, and you're going to hear about that when the appellant makes their presentation. You've probably seen it in the news. The hotel's been shut down for, I think, since January. And they have no guests in the hotel. So we were okay with reducing the hotel. But because these were on different dockets, at the end of the day, if we reduce this one today, the hotel should go up in value to maintain that total value.
I haven't been watching local news very much lately, so I didn't hear about it.
Okay, no, you'll hear about it soon.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Brown, actually, I see that I sat on that hearing, and if I remember correctly, I'm talking about the hotel hearing.
Yeah.
That was a recommendation by the assessment department, was it not?
Correct.
Accepted by the applicant?
It was not accepted by the applicant.
It
It was
wasn't?
accepted by the panel.
I see. Okay.
And
Yeah.
like I said, we chose to reduce it below the sale price due to the current problems that the property is experiencing. However, of the two properties, this is the one that could actually be used more in the more near future. I do believe, I've been to a bunch of concerts at the Burton Cummings Theater lately, which I think has absorbed the fallout of this live venue music place closing. So I've been to many concerts at the subject property before it closed, and I do believe it could be resurrected as a live music venue.
Okay, but I guess my next question is, if the assessment department did make that recommendation, shouldn't they have made it on the basis of, well, it wasn't accepted, so I guess you couldn't have. Knowing that there was another application pending on another docket, I'm just wondering why, if there was no intention to make a further recommendation, you would have made the full recommendation initially and now be in this position.
At the end of the day, economically, it's the exact same thing. The owner is going to be paying the exact same amount of taxes. If I were to, so I think the total reduction on the hotel was about $1 million, if I remember correctly. I'll just go down to the order.
No, I understand that, but if we were to make a further reduction today, in fact, then it's going to be reduced further because you've already made the reduction on the hotel. You can't take that back.
Correct. I believe at that point, we would have to settle that at the municipal board or something like that.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
in our opinion, it would be wrong, because if this, it's just mathematics, right? If this were to go down, then the hotel should go up.
Okay.
In essence.
Okay. Referring to your comparable land sales.
Yeah.
I think you're using like somewhere over $32 a square foot.
The assessment comes in at $132.62, which
And
is 22,214 square feet, divided by the assessment at 2,946,000.
yeah, I'm sorry, what page was that on?
It's on page 5. I don't have the calculation. I just did it for myself before the hearing.
Okay.
But the breakdown is on page 5. It shows the replacement cost new at over 6.8 million, but we have an 89% depreciation rate on that, which drops that replacement cost or the depreciated cost down to $750,000.
Yeah, so it really comes down to basically land for the most part.
Correct. With a small building component. Yeah.
Okay, that's my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Horsborough, you can proceed with your evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as Mr. Brown already discussed, the property we are debating the value over is the Garrick Theatre, 330 Gary Street, with an assessed value of $3,352,000. Moving to page 5 of my disclosure, the subject property is connected to the Marlborough Theatre. The two properties are used together. However, they are two separate buildings connected by a skywalk. The subject property has been closed permanently in March 2020. And since that time, it hasn't operated, save for a brief period where it was rented to the province as a COVID testing site. And since that time, the property has not operated either as a theater, music venue, or in any other way. It's a difficult property to value. The Assessment and Taxation Department has valued it on by the income approach. I valued it. MNP's valued it on the income approach and on the direct comparison approach. In analyzing the highest and best use of the property, it was my determination that the highest and best use of the property is as a vacant land parcel. There are a number of reasons for that, and I will get to it later on in my presentation. But ultimately, downtown theaters in Winnipeg, they've all closed. Every single downtown theater in Winnipeg is closed, and they're functionally and economically obsolete. So that's how I came to the determination that the highest and best use of the property is as vacant land, so it can be redeveloped to a more productive use. So the lot itself, it measures 22,214 square feet. We've analyzed some comparable land sales from the downtown region. Came to a land value of $102.66 per square foot. And then we determined that the cost of demolishing the existing improvements would amount to $10 a square foot. And we've made a deduction from that land value and determined the market value of $1.98 million. Moving on to page 6, on August 21st, Mr. Brown and myself inspected the property along with the manager of the Marlborough Hotel. As per the manager, the subject property has experienced multiple instances of squatters breaking into the building since it closed in 2020. The exterior of the building was stained with human excrement, urine, and littered with drug paraphernalia. All exterior walls of the building have been vandalized, and all entrances have been boarded up and are locked from the inside with chains. The property was renovated in the early 2000s, but since closing in 2020, the property has been left to decay. And we'll see that later in the report as we look at some of the photographs. Seeing as the Marlborough Hotel and the Garrick Theatre are no longer operating, the management and owner of the building, they no longer heat the property, and it is exposed to the elements throughout the winter and has suffered damage from water leaks, mold growth, and vandalism. On page 7, I've listed some comparable properties in downtown Winnipeg. So this table on page 7, it includes a number of downtown theaters in Winnipeg. Town 8 Cinema, 301 Notre Dame Avenue, status permanently closed. Monarch Theater, 351 Portage Avenue, status permanently closed. Capitol Theater, 313 Donald Street, status permanently closed. I won't read through all of them. Every downtown theater in Winnipeg has shut down permanently, and most have been demolished. And that's because having a theater downtown Winnipeg there's no demand for it. It's become an economically and functionally obsolete business model to run a theater down in downtown Winnipeg. Moving on to page 8, we have the income valuation provided by the assessment department. And on page 9, we have an aerial photograph and the assessment map. Pages 10 through 22 include photographs taken on August 21st of this year. On page 11, you can see some of the graffiti on the property. Page 12, you might not want to look at too closely, as it does show what the property is being used for on the outside. Pages 13, 14, and 15 are the interior of the theater. On page 16, we see that the property has been boarded up and the entrances have been barricaded. I'll give the board just a minute to look through these photos, and once you've had a chance to look through some of these photographs, we'll continue on page 23.
Okay, Mr. Esper, I think we've had a chance to review them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Moving on to page 23 of the disclosure. The property has been assessed with potential income of $333,900. The property has not been producing income since 2020, save for a brief stint as a COVID testing site. Due to economic obsolescence, the property no longer has potential to generate income as a theater or as an entertainment venue. As the assessor speculated that the property could be a theater or a music venue once again. If that were the case, it would be operating as a music venue or a theater. It's been closed for the last 4 years. If anyone saw it, any investor, any entrepreneur saw it as having the potential to open again and to operate as a theater, it would be operating. However, as of the effective date and as it still stands, the property is vacant and no longer hosts any sort of entertainment or music of any kind. Speaking to the Marlborough Hotel, the connected Marlborough Hotel, that property has been closed since January of this year. There was a widely publicized event where a young woman on Christmas Day attempted to stab hotel patrons and guests. She was placed in restraints, and the incident was videotaped and shared widely on social media. The resulting fallout, there was quite a lot of fallout. As a result, the young woman was Indigenous, and the Marlborough Hotel had many contracts in place with different Indigenous organizations and First Nations. In accordance with Jordan's principle, many were in Winnipeg for medical treatment and received 3 meal vouchers a day to be used at the hotel, along with their stay at the hotel. So following this incident with the hotel guest, the Indigenous organizations all canceled their contracts with the Marlborough Hotel. The hotel was broken into by a number of protesters who then vandalized the space of the hotel. And then, as per the hotel owner and management, they received so many death threats that the Winnipeg police advised them to close down the hotel, as they were not able to ensure the safety of any guests and any employees in the hotel. And as Mr. Brown and myself inspected the hotel back in August, it is permanently closed. There are no guests, and only one staff remains on site part-time. Moving on to page 24. Is MNP's opinion that the Assessment and Taxation Department should be applying the 10% rate that has been applied to the Marlborough Hotel. The two properties are connected, and given the situation at the Marlborough Hotel and the Garrick Theatre would be an extremely high-risk investment, seeing as it has been closed for the last 4 years. But it's not my position that the property should be valued based on income. And Mr. Brown mentioned earlier that the Assessment and Taxation Department will, on occasion, apply a vacancy rate of 25%, and that accounts for chronic vacancy. Seeing as the property has been shut down since 2020, save for a brief period serving as a COVID testing site, we do feel that a vacancy rate of 25% ought to be applied to the property, should it be valued based on income. Moving on to page 25, the Assessment and Taxation Department has assessed the property with a rental rate of $11.13 per square foot. As we saw in Mr. Brown's presentation, the rental rate is based on office space, on office leases in downtown Winnipeg. The subject property is not an office, so applying an office rental rate to the property is, in our opinion, nonsensical and doesn't reflect the market rent that the property could achieve if it were to be valued based on income. It's our opinion that the property should, if it is valued based on income, it should be a storage rental rate applied to the property. So we have looked at a number of large industrial properties that are leased for storage space. Those storage rates range from $5 a square foot to $6.50 a square foot. If the property were to be valued based on income, it would not be able to achieve a downtown office rental rate. It would likely be able to achieve the rental rate that a storage building would be able to achieve, because it couldn't be used as an office, and it wouldn't be used as an office. The only potential renter of this property would be renting it for the storage space. And so we would think that $5 per square foot would be the market rental rate for this kind of property. And we've included those rent comparables in that table on page 25. If the property were to be valued based on income, we have a breakdown here on page 26. So looking at $5 a square foot as the market rent for the property, we have potential income of $150,000 a year. Considering the fact that the property has been almost completely vacant for the last 4 years, a chronic vacancy adjustment is warranted at a rate of 25%, giving us a vacancy allowance of $37,500. and an effective gross income of $112,500, with further deductions made for the expense allowance and then the 10% capitalization rate that was applied to the Marlborough Hotel. We arrive at a market value of $865,000. With this in mind, it's not my opinion, and it's not my organization's opinion that the property should be valued on income. I don't see the property being worth $865,000. There is a fair bit of land value in the property, but the Assessment and Taxation Department is valuing it based on income. And if we were to value the property based on income, it's only worth $865,000. Moving on to page 27, this is the breakdown of our determination of land value. So we've looked at sales of downtown vacant land. Some of these Mr. Brown relied on as well in his analysis of land value. And some of these are parking lots. However, I have adjusted the sale price to account for changes in land values between the sale date and the reference date. So M&P has applied the median selling price per square foot for downtown vacant land parcels in determining the property's land value. We've also conducted thorough research into demolition costs for the property. And we have determined that at a minimum, it would cost $10 per square foot to demolish the property. In reality, this number would probably be a lot higher, considering the age of the theater and fireproofing that was done at the time that it was built. It's more than likely that the property would have asbestos and that would need to be remediated. And the actual demolition cost would likely be more than $10 per square foot. But for the sake of valuing the property, we have used demolition costs amounting to $10 per square foot. And then moving from page 27 to page 28. Again, this is quite a unique property. It hasn't operated for 4 years. It has no potential to operate again as it is as of the effective date. As such, in determining the highest and best use of the property, the highest and best use is as vacant land with the improvements demolished. And again, we have valued the land based on comparable sales and then made an adjustment to account for the cost of demolition. And so respectfully, I would ask that the board revise the value to $1,980,000. And throughout the, well, I'll just point to one item in the addenda on page 73. I just included one news article from 2014, and that's when the last theater closed in downtown Winnipeg. That was the Globe Theater. Or actually, I think Town 8 Cinema closed last, but anyway, the downtown theater business model no longer works. And with that, I would conclude my presentation and welcome any questions from the assessor and from the panel members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Horsburgh. Mr. Brown, any questions?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm just going to pull up your brief so I can get the page numbers. Your list of now closed Winnipeg theaters on page 7, I guess it is. How many of these closed in the 2000s?
I would have to double check my reference. I believe they mostly closed between the 80s and now. So looking at a range.
Yeah, it was an interesting list. I didn't recognize some of these theaters. I did some research. Are you aware that the Monarch Theater closed in 1932?
I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. Yeah, there's a few. The Lyceum closed in 1968. The Starline closed in 1967. So a lot of these are very old closures. You're correct in that most of them were in the 80s and 90s. There was 4 since 2000. Technically, the Garrick closed in 2001 as a theater. It's been operating as a live concert venue and a hotel amenity since.
I'm sorry, Mr. Brown, do you have a question for me?
Yeah, okay. Are you aware that the town was the last closure in July 2022? Are you aware of that?
Yes, 2022. That's what I
Okay.
thought.
And previously, as you mentioned, it was the Globe Cinema in 2014.
Right.
Okay. You're aware that there are still some theaters operating, but they're not operating as theaters, such as the Burton Cummings Theater, operating as a live music venue?
I'm aware of the Burton Cummings Theater, yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to your vacancy allowance, you've made repeated statements that this has been closed since March 2020, when in reality it was operating as a COVID testing site until March 2022. You're aware of that?
I'm aware of the period of time that it was used as a COVID testing center. And I
Okay.
would imagine you would agree that that's no longer a feasible use either.
It's true, but it was operating up until March 2022. So in essence, you're aware that there was only really 1 year of vacancy in this reference date.
I'm not aware of the exact date that it started to operate as a COVID testing site. So the exact number of months, I'm not sure.
Okay. So moving on to your comparable sales for your land sales. I believe you claimed we've used some of the same sales. I don't believe that's accurate. Would you agree?
I might be mistaken. I thought maybe we had both included the Bannatyne parking lot.
Yeah, yours was 127 and mine was 124. They're actually across the street from each other.
Oh, okay, my mistake.
No worries. Okay, so your first sale, 2018 and 2020 Maine. I assume that's the Winnipeg Hotel?
I would have to double check.
Okay. Well, 218 Main does not exist. 220 Main is the parking lot beside the old Winnipeg Hotel, which is located at 214 Main. That parcel, which is roll number 1209 976,000, contains both the hotel and the parking lot, and there was no sales in 2016. I believe there was a sale in 2019, but the square footage doesn't match either. The actual square footage of that parcel is 6,870, whereas you have it listed at 5,985,000. I was just wondering if
Hey,
you knew
Mr.
why.
Brown, you know what? I appreciate that you're giving us information, which is sort of rebuttal. Try to phrase
I
those
was
questions.
just about to
Yeah.
turn that into a question. I was just wondering if you knew why there was some discrepancies between what's in our records and what's in your sale record.
The information that we have for our sale records was provided by a third party. It's possible that they went off a land area provided by the agent who sold it, and then the assessment department would have the more accurate land record. So yeah, it is possible that we're off by a couple dozen square feet.
Okay, thank you. Your sales 2 and 3, those were both sold on the same day by the same seller and the same buyer, which would constitute a multi-roll sale. They also have the same price per square foot. Would you agree that that is in essence one sale?
Regardless if it was one sale or two sales, I don't really see how that's relevant.
Well, it just reduces your comparables down to 3 instead of 4.
Okay, but they're two different parcels of land, correct?
On the same street, sold on the same day by the same buyer and the same seller. I'm assuming they were negotiated together.
I'm not going to speculate.
Okay. And then your last sale, 225 Carlton, that's the site of the what's now the True North Square. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, and the seller was Her Majesty the Queen, Province of Manitoba?
I'm not aware who the parties were.
Okay, that is who the seller was. Generally,
Did I include that in my evidence? I don't think I did.
okay,
Who the buyer and seller were.
okay. So you're not aware that that's a seller?
Sorry, you cut out.
Are you aware that that's the seller?
Again, I'm not aware of who the seller and the buyer was.
Okay. So you've taken your land sales and you've reduced it by the demolition cost, is that correct?
I valued the land and then taken into account the cost of demolition. Yes.
Okay. But if we're valuing that land as though it's vacant, shouldn't we be adding the cost of demolition to the land price? If I was a prospective purchaser and I was buying a building with or land with a building on it, would it not, the total price would be the price to buy the land plus the demolition, not minus the demolition, as a prospective purchaser?
Mr. Brown, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but I'm again not going to speculate and engage with you as you ask me to speculate on this and that. I would prefer that you keep your questions to the evidence that's been provided.
I think the question's okay. It raises a question.
This is appraisal theory.
Are you an appraiser?
No, but I've taken appraisal courses. Are you an appraiser? It's in appraisal theory that if you're to value a piece of land as though vacant, would you not agree that a prospective purchaser would be adding the demolition cost to the purchase price, not subtracting it?
In terms of looking at the market value of the property, consideration would be made for the cost that would go into demolishing the property.
And that cost would be borne by the purchaser, correct?
Yes.
So a purchaser looking to buy land would have to add the demolition cost to the purchase of the land with the building on it in the end.
The market perspective looking at it, they're going to have to take on that cost.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Nell, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moretsky. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more about how you come up with the 300,000 demolition cost?
Yes, sir. The 300,000, it's based on a rate of $10 per square foot. And that's looking at cost manuals and demolition contractors, what they typically estimate the cost of demolition at. So the range usually is from 10 to 15 a square foot for larger, more complicated properties. If there's asbestos present, if there's remediation work that needs to be done, that number can increase a lot higher. But that's that $10 rate, that $300,000, that's based on third-party estimates.
Okay, and none of these other vacant lots that you use have the same situation where anything had to be demolished. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you. And I have no questions that have been asked either. So thank you very much. So does either party wish to make a summation to us?
I think we've covered all the aspects. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Horsborough?
Mr. Chair, I have no desire for summation. However, I have included rebuttal evidence.
Okay, we'll take a look at it then. Have we got that on our SharePoint?
Mr. Chair, I've just uploaded it.
Okay, I'll have to.
If you and everybody else could please refresh and
Yeah.
let me know. It's called Applicant Rebuttal, 330 Gary Street. And I'll send it to the assessor as well.
Thank you.
Just give me a moment, please.
Mr. Horsborough, do you have a rough time estimate of how long your rebuttal will take?
Just a few minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Good.
I'm sure it's been a long day for yourself and the panel members, so I'll do my best to keep things as
I
brief as
I have
possible.
a hockey game to go to for my son, so
Well, I don't want to deprive you of that, so I'll go through it as quickly as I can.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Is everyone, well, but once the
Not there
panel's,
yet, sorry. It's taking me a bit of time, but hang on. So we're looking at, so it's on the SharePoint?
Yes, it is. Are you
Yep.
having a hard time finding it?
So far I don't see it.
Wait just a moment, please.
Yeah, I don't have it. The last rebuttal I have was 3 hours ago. So it's another rebuttal. No, I have one about an hour ago. Oh, about a minute ago. Sorry, I found it. Thank you.
Okay, good.
I'm still waiting on it too, Mr. Chair, or currently.
Yeah,
I just sent,
have it. So,
Mr. Chair, I just sent it to the assessor.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Does everybody else have it?
I'm good, yep.
Okay, looks like I just got it. Thank
I
you.
got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, are all the panel members ready?
we have it. I was just wondering if Mr. Brown, have you got the rebuttal?
I've got the rebuttal.
Oh, okay, yeah, we're all ready then. Certainly, I was waiting for Mr. Brown. Okay,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
no problem. Please proceed, Mr. Horsborough.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the purpose of my rebuttal evidence is simple. It's just to point out the fact that the assessor has defended the valuation of the subject property by using rents from what are very obviously office buildings. So starting on page 5, we have 115 Bannatyne Avenue that's relied on as a rental comparable, and 1661 Portage Avenue, which is also relied on as a rental comparable. And we can see from these photographs that the properties are nothing like the subject property. On page 6, we have 330 St. Mary Avenue and 136 Market Avenue. And again, these properties bear no resemblance whatsoever in terms of their use to the subject property, and should not, the assessor hasn't defended or provided any evidence in support of the market rate, the market rent applied in the assessment of the subject property. And on page 7, we have 240 Graham and 114 Gary, again, downtown office buildings that are not at all similar to the subject property. And for the sake of Mr. Brown hopefully being able to make it to his son's hockey game, I I won't go into any more detail than that. I just wanted to point out the fact that no evidence has been provided by the assessor in defense of the market rental rate applied to the subject property. And again, of course, the burden of proof is on the assessor to prove that the value is fair and justifiable. And in this case, the income value determined by the assessment department is factually wrong. And if you allow it, I have just a short summation that I'd like to make, and then that's all I have to say about the subject property.
Go ahead.
So again, we have a property today, the Garrick Theater, and the assessment department has valued it as if it's an office. I've provided information to the contrary, that if it is valued on income, it would achieve a rental rate, not a downtown office rate. The property has been mostly vacant. It's an unfortunate situation. But with that being said, there is no justification for the assessed value as it is. And I would respectfully ask the board to revise the assessment to reflect the market value for the property. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, thank you. We've now heard every.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can I just make a brief summation after?
you can, because both you and Mr. Horsborough said you wouldn't need one. And since Mr. Horsborough made one, I'll certainly allow you to make one
But
too.
just since there was, after the rebuttal, I feel there is a need for one. So as I went over in my presentation, we valued this as a hotel. We valued it as one economic unit. The income approach using the office model is simply a procedural move to get a value that we can deduct from the hotel. It's a placeholder assessment. In essence, we valued the both buildings as a hotel. They submit their financial statements as one economic unit. They're connected by a skywalk. There's amenities for the hotel contained within the theater. So the justification argument, I feel, doesn't hold any weight. We valued it as a hotel, and that's my summation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now you have done so. We appreciate both of your attendance today and your evidence. We have a hard work to do now, but we're going to adjourn this hearing as we've all now heard all items on the agenda. And thank you for your appearances. You hear from us soon.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Horsborough.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, and thank you to the panel members as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.